Hello and welcome to a new episode of the Game Informer Show. My name is Ben Hansen, joined by Sturil Vasquez.
Hi.
Sturil, you've been on for like 16 weeks in a row now?
Sure.
Fantastic. Love it. Ben Reeves.
Just Ben's fine.
And Matt Miller.
Hi.
Miller, are you excited to be here?
Very.
You know what? It's the big holiday episode, sir.
Yep.
We loved having you on the Star Wars discussion. We didn't know when we were recording that it was going to go in the feed. Otherwise, we would have treated it more like a podcast, maybe. But I'm glad that people seem to enjoy it. But this is a real last episode.
Now we're
of the
really
Game Informer
talking real stuff.
Now we're really talking games.
Yeah.
Basically, the point of this show,
Okay.
first part of it at least, is a lot of people probably listening to this are in their car, driving home, trying to figure out, how do I survive a weekend or a week with the family? What are we going to do after we
turn
open
off
those
here?
presents? Yeah, it's so confusing. And so that's the point
Where
of this
am I?
podcast. We're going to give specific directions to homes on this
Okay.
episode of the
Yeah.
GI show. I hope
Address-
you're all
Turn
ready.
left right now.
Doesn't matter, just
Oh, you
swerve!
missed your exit.
Oh, we're going to be your Siri, right? Like that's our goal. It's just the rest of the episode's just going to be giving you directions. So we're going to give you 20 seconds to get ready and then just expect to start hearing some turn signals.
In 200 miles, keep right.
Yes.
Oh, the male version of Siri.
We're going to
Suriel.
give directions
Suriel.
to...
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Directions to Funtown, you guys. Because on this episode, we are talking about games to play with the family, games to play with friends,
Yeah.
how to have fun with games over the holiday break, outside of just sitting in your room and not talking to family and just playing a good single-player game.
That sounds pretty good.
But Ben,
Yes, sir.
it seems like some of those games would be more than just video games.
That's right. That's why Miller's here. If you remember last year, I think it was last year, we talked about tabletop games. And
We
that's
did.
going to be a part of the discussion as well. It's a great time to whip out some cardboard and bore everybody. So we're going to talk all about it. Then we have some podcast emails that people sent in from the community. Those are going to be really fun. Back half of the show, we're going to finally introduce Game Informer's latest batch of interns, Cody Mello-Klein, Keenan McCall, and George Ash. We just recently...
Just in time for them to leave.
Yes.
Yep.
See you
yes.
guys.
It's the way it works. We kick them out the door, but on their way out, they stop by. We talk about what they're proud of, what they worked on here, what a Game Informer internship is like, and then it also bleeds over into them talking about what they see as some great games from 2017 that maybe haven't gotten enough love. And then there might be a twist, and I might force them to duel to the death to figure out the official Game Informer intern game of the year for 2017.
Oh, wow. So, like, they really are, some of them are gone. They dueled to the death.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. We couldn't even kick them out the door because they were corpses. We had to just shovel them into
but
the garbage.
We get to find out which one of them survived.
Stay tuned. Back half of the show. It's a good chat with
Sweet.
those guys. For now, every year, I don't know if you guys have this experience, but I want this to be more of a roundtable discussion about what it's like going home for the holidays and trying to play games with the family, right?
Mhm.
Suriel, is this a big part of your life?
Yeah. Every year I basically drive down to my parents' place twice a year for Thanksgiving and for Christmas. So I do tend to have to figure out what are we going to do while we're all there. And we've run out of like, oh, you did this thing. Okay. Well, that's great. Okay. And then we just figure out something else to do.
What have you tried in the past? Just to make your family feel alive for once.
Just for once. Well, a lot of it is just like watching movies, like holiday movies and stuff together. It just feels like you're just kind of doing the same activity without really interacting with each other.
Sure. Put on the Blu-ray if It's a Wonderful Life. Everybody sits back. recites the
Exactly.
lines.
Yes. But I mean, like we've sort of settled into a few sort of mainline activities, but we kind of like to change it up. I mean, there's like we do like a Secret Santa thing, and
All right.
I think one year we tried to do a white elephant, but then it got very confusing, so I think we ended up doing a Secret Santa anyway. So that kind of stuff, like just going behind other people's backs and sort of saying like, okay, what does this person want? It's like, well, they're gonna want this. And
So you're saying the holidays are about deception.
yes, absolutely, 100. Like you could say all holidays are about some sort of deception.
That's
What
why you
game do
should-
you recommend for that?
I'm going with Avalon, everybody.
That's
Just
a
pick
good
up
one.
Avalon.
That's a
The
good
one
one. That's
game that I played absolutely to death.
Ben Hansen plays Avalon so much.
It's my most played game ever. And it's
not,
always painful.
It's not even that. It's like one of the only games you play.
Well, we'll get into it. We're talking about tabletop games. It's like once you find perfection. But it's a larger theme to think about a lot, Miller, where a lot of times like talking to friends, family members who are just kind of like passively interested in games.
Yes.
Video games specifically. It's always confusing to me where they're like, I played Madden and then I heard that the new Star Wars game was crap. Or like, I don't know, I guess I own an Xbox 360 and every once in a while I boot up some racing game and it's always like, what? Why aren't you staying on the cutting edge? And I never know what it's like to be in their shoes. But unless I go with the analogy of tabletop games because
Mm.
I'm a complete simpleton when it comes to that stuff. Like you
Okay.
recommended Codenames last year.
Yeah,
Play it all the time with friends now.
it's
but
amazing, right?
It's amazing, but it gets so focused just on like, well, this is the board game for all time. Avalon and Codenames, done and done. And that's why I need you to force the overall community and maybe myself specifically to try new stuff.
We're
We
gonna
need
get you
that
some-
third heat.
We're gonna get
Yeah.
you some good new stuff. this year.
Fantastic.
Oh,
Reeves,
perfect.
do you get stressed out trying to, come up with things for the family to
Wouldn't say I
play?
get stressed out, but yeah, I have the kind of family that's not like super into games. My brother's into video games. That's about it. And in fact, there's a lot of members of my family who are very hesitant to even hold a controller. So it's always kind of like Jackbox. Games are
Ooh.
good for that
Oh,
because it's
very
like,
solid
well,
choice.
phones, nobody has to hold a controller. Everybody has a phone already. And those games are fun. And that's been like a good way to break in. Some of my family members who have been resistant to playing video games in the past will
Yes.
play Jackbox
It's
games.
huge.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How does that? I played Jackbox a lot with friends, but it does feel like that's a game that could sometimes veer into, shall we say, iffy territory when playing with the whole family.
What kind of friends do you have, Miller?
Well,
What the hell?
don't you think that would be the case?
It's just dick drawing simulator so
Yeah.
often. Yeah,
Right.
but there's definitely areas. I think you can cater the game. Like
Yeah.
that would be my number one recommendation for families, and specifically a game that I don't believe is sold in a pack, which is Drawful 2. Like
Sure.
if you bring Drawful 2 out, I think the entire family can have a great time with that. And it's probably not going to get too lewd. Whereas stuff like TKO, I'd imagine in Jackbox Party Pack 3, I think there are games that steer more towards kind of
Kinda more-
inviting,
Right.
more edgy
Yeah.
stuff.
Actually, TKO specifically, my family really likes that one, and
Oh.
I've played with like an 8-year-old and a 10-year-old, and just exclusively draw dicks. No, in fact, I was gonna say we don't do that. Like we can avoid drawing like the profane things, and like they still have fun.
That's good.
So it's just like brassieres and stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It's
You know,
all underwear.
I
yeah.
will say
thongs.
the other thing going for Jackbox as being a great option for the holidays, and there's a new one,
Jackbox Party Pack 4. and-
Exactly.
yeah.
which is great.
Yeah,
Um,
Leo in particular really loves it. I still think my ideal setup is Drawful 2 and Jackbox Party Pack 3.
Well,
But go ahead.
suffice to say, whichever one you go with, it has the advantage of just pure accessibility, right? Like this isn't a game that you can't run on virtually any computer that you own, including like just your bad, crappy laptop.
And they also have
right.
it on like Apple TV and stuff like
Yeah,
Oh,
that.
yeah.
and so it's real easy to just have it there. If you want to have the big screen treatment, you just run an HDMI cord to a TV, and you're off to the races,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah.
Like
It's on PS4, and is it on Switch now too?
It is on Switch. Yeah, all of them
so
are
I mean,
on Switch.
if you own consoles, you can go that way.
yeah, and that the wide variety of ways that you could get into the game, or like if you're driving home to some faraway place where your family lives, just having a laptop along that's got it loaded up, you're good to go.
Yeah.
And you do need to have a internet connection, I guess. That would be the one.
Well, I mean, you can use 3G
Yeah.
or 4G, but yeah, going over Wi-Fi is a little more reliable. But yeah, it is just so amazing that there's no app to download. You can just go to the browser on your phone. Anybody can use anything they want. They can use a laptop
or an
I
iPad,
believe.
or
yeah, absolutely anything. I believe you can use a laptop.
I mean anything that can connect to a browser site.
Right, and then just put jokes in there. And it really pains me that in the year where Sony's really trying to push PlayLink, out of all those PlayLink experiences that I've tried this year, I don't think I'd recommend it for this type of situation
Yeah.
yet. I mean, their That's You game, which is them trying to do a Jackbox style thing, it
Isn't
just
as
pales
good.
in comparison.
Yeah.
It's overwritten, overproduced, I would even say. And also for all these games, you have to download individual apps, and it's just a technical nightmare.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's amazing how like the Jackbox games they are funny in themselves, but they also set up. I don't know how they do
Emergent
it. It's
funniness?
just like the
Yeah.
way they've set up the games. Like it just provides the opportunity to be really funny, even like among my family members who I'm like don't consider super funny. You know who you
hate
are.
these.
Yeah.
It's terribly unfunny. Just
No,
the
but
worst
it
people.
ends up like they draw funny pictures or they like come up with a funny turn of phrase. I'm like, all right,
There's
like, I
something
have a
of-
funny family.
There's something about it, having grandma trying to draw a sketch in Drawful, and then
Right.
everybody can laugh at it together.
Well, and I just the way the questions are worded too. It's just like
You're
it
terrible,
urges you to
Grandma.
come up with something funny to say.
Right, they're
Yeah,
great
yeah.
prompts.
They
Yeah,
are
like,
good.
to
they're,
get you to
they're really
think
good
about
prompts.
Those
funny
guys
stuff.
have many years of experience honing in on the right formula for that.
Yeah.
And it shows.
Yeah, absolutely. Also, I wonder if there's going to be a lot of people out there that have purchased, maybe specifically because it's the easiest to lug around, PlayStation VR. What do you guys think about bringing VR home to the family over the holidays?
Doesn't seem worth it to me personally. I don't know.
I don't know. I might side on the idea that this would be a good time if you had invested in VR and it was feasible to make it happen, to share that with family. I mean, I continue to be of the mind that the big challenge for VR and to get more big developers to invest is to just have more people who are excited about it. And mostly once you show somebody, you get somebody into one of the good VR games or experiences and they get it. Well, like,
You're such a dick.
That's
Reeves.
right.
I think there's a bunch of stuff out there that is compelling. Even stuff like the lab, right?
Mhm.
You know, is a cool experience to have. And once you get it, I think it's easier to wrap your head around the idea of like why somebody would want to spend a bunch of money on this thing.
Yeah, and it's easy to poo-poo at Reeves because we got to try it for free in the office.
Right.
You know what I mean? But like showing somebody, the first time I tried VR, I was like, this is something completely new, and it's
Yeah.
definitely worth experiencing. And I think it is fun to see other people's reactions to that, even if it's something as simple as being a Star Wars fan. This had a big impact on me. But like for Battlefront 1, they released that X-Wing
Sure.
VR mission, which is on PlayStation, and even just that experience of feeling like you're sitting in the cockpit of an X-Wing and like flipping levers and stuff is awesome.
Yeah, that is kind of a cool experience. I guess I might be jaded just because like I've been experiencing VR for like 2+ years now, and
Yeah.
like most of my family, most of my friends have already experienced it at this point. And after you've done that, like there's not that next step to take yet. So I don't know, if you're in a situation where your family hasn't and you have VR, maybe I'll recant. Maybe it is worth bringing.
They should hook up Doom
Yeah.
VR.
Yeah.
Doom VR. That's right.
Most accessible
I mean-
for the whole family.
Grandma's gonna love it.
The challenge, and speaking to I think maybe some of your concern there, is that like lugging all that stuff around is a mess
Right.
still.
And it's still a one-person thing at a
Yeah.
time. So depending on how big your family is, like,
Yeah.
are you gonna really like, line up everybody and have them
Right.
do it one at a time?
Right.
I don't know.
Single file.
Yeah, orderly fashion.
The setup is definitely still like the biggest entry there, just because I feel like Google Cardboard, like if they improve on that and sort of get it to the point where it can sort of handle sort of titles beyond very basic experiences, I think that would be the best entry point of like Google Earth with that kind of
Yeah,
stuff is I think is a
absolutely.
super interesting thing. But if it could handle like here's a cool experience you can play with just your phone and maybe some other kind of like device that you hook up to your phone, I think that would be the one where it's just like, here, put this on. Like we don't need to set up the PlayStation 4 for the next 30 minutes. Like just go with it and like here's a cool thing.
Miller, what is your number one recipe for fun when getting together with folks over the holidays? Like if you could steer people towards one thing, tabletop, video game, anything, what is a guaranteed good time?
Well,
Pie.
yeah, food.
Yeah.
I mean, I think one of the reasons that I push tabletop so hard during this time of year is that I see that experience as being fundamentally built around interaction with other people. Even the best video game party experiences, like let's say Jackbox, is fundamentally steering your attention outward to a screen, right? Now, don't get me wrong. I mean, I work at a video game magazine. I love video games. But when we're talking about what gets families closer together, what makes friends develop closer relationships, I think there is an inherent advantage to the tabletop experience.
Yeah.
You are doing the same thing that literally our ancestors did when they gathered around the fire and told stories to each other, right? You're all facing each other and you're looking into each other's eyes and you're laughing and you're telling stories and you're figuring puzzles out. And that's why this time of year I push so hard on the board games and the card games and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Because I think it's a way to deepen connections to other people. And at the end of the day, that's really what you want at the holidays.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, there's stuff like Space Team. You know, there are like the video games, which I believe is still free on mobile, which is a great example of just if you want a crazy co-op experience with people. But that idea of branching out from a screen and trying to focus on each other. What do you think is one of the best family games, tabletop wise then?
Well, we speaking about Codenames, right?
Yeah.
You love Codenames,
Love
and so
it.
I want to make sure and bring up to you the fact that there's a new version of Codenames that's out now called Codenames Duet. That's
Duet.
a kind of cooperative version. It still enables like party game play, but you can play it with as few as 2 people.
So, but you can play with 10.
You can play with more people.
Okay.
It's just sort of a variation on the existing Codenames concept, but it's great.
How does that work exactly?
It's just the way that they've structured the. I don't want to get into the rules and everything because that goes beyond the scope of what we're talking about here. But it's how they've structured the guessing portion and the actual. There's more places that you can go wrong on the grid that you're guessing, and so you have to be more careful. And so there's always one person giving a clue and the other person guessing, then it flips.
I'm still a little confused. But Codenames, we talked about it last year. It's word association.
That's the takeaway here is that if you see a copy of Codenames, there's now several versions. There's Codenames, there's Codename Pictures, which is the same idea but with images. There's ones that are brand specific now.
That's so
really?
Yeah, there's a Disney Codenames. It's a little more targeted towards younger players.
Sure. They wouldn't understand the normal words.
There's
non-Disney.
I mean,
words.
to be clear, Codenames is a great game to play with young families, I think.
Yeah.
But for people who are like, you got a real serious Disney fan in your family, that's great. There's a Marvel Codenames.
The problem with those themes, they also have dick Codenames. I think is the codename. It's just like, hey, say sexy.
Codenames Undercover. That's
Undercover,
the only one I don't love, actually, because I feel like it goes against the part of the spirit of that whole game. Is pretty wholesome, to be frank.
And also, I have a problem with the overall themed Codenames because the fun of Codenames is just trying to figure out if there are any themes on the board and trying to connect disparate words. And when everything can be unified by saying the word Mickey Mouse, it's like it makes it harder in a way.
Well, but there'd be things that would connect to Mickey Mouse that maybe you don't want them to guess. But I see what you're saying. Like, I think if you're playing with a bunch of Marvel fans, like those connections could run pretty deep, and you could come up with some clever like connections there. The problem I would see is like the thing I like about Codenames is how broad it can be, and I can play with anybody. And my mom's not going to play the Marvel Codenames and like get it. As
she
much
insists
as I
on Undercover.
That's right, Undercover all the way.
Grandma, we can't keep playing this game.
I still think so. If people go to the store,
Yep.
look at Codenames. Do they go duet? Do they go vanilla? What do you recommend?
I think it depends on where. If you the reason to get duet would be if you and your partner or spouse regularly think you would play together, but you also want to be able to have an option for bringing 2 friends.
Okay.
I mean, quite frankly, I think once you play any version of the game, you're going to be hooked enough that if you see another version, you'll be like, oh yeah, I should get that too.
Yeah.
For instance, playing the original Codenames and Codenames Pictures together is brilliant.
Wait, you
really
can connect
cool.
them together?
You can absolutely play them simultaneously. It's so confusing and weird and fun.
Can you mix the duet stuff or the
I
Undercover stuff
haven't
with
ever
it?
tried that. I don't know if that would work or not. There's certainly cards in duets. I mean, the actual word cards are basically the same thing, so there wouldn't be any problem with pulling in new cards that way. I'm not sure how the rules would work if you tried to mix that in with like pictures, though.
Speaking of go to the store, Miller, there's this weird trend in very simple board games beyond tabletop games, and it just seems to be accelerating more and more and more. I don't know if you guys have noticed this, but they have like the old games, maybe like Sorry, Parcheesi, Monopoly, and they have like retro boxes, which at first is like, oh, that's kind of cool to have like the old school version of it, the way they sell like old school toys, like the old telephone that's in Toy Story 3 and stuff, and give it that retro package. It just seems like it's accelerating to a crazy point where I saw this box of Monopoly. It was like in a old wooden crate. It's like they're just escalating to the point of like they're gonna like sell these things in a coconut soon. It's
All
just
the pieces
absurd.
are made of lead.
Honestly,
is this?
I feel like that is a it's a strange business decision being made by these companies who make these classic games that have really broad sort of shelf awareness, right? Like everybody knows Monopoly,
Right.
everybody knows Clue, right? These are games that like you just sort of grow up with an awareness that they exist.
And Miller grew up with
Right.
an awareness that they suck.
Well, I don't think all of those games suck. But I do think one of the dilemmas facing some of those game makers right now is that the hobby games market that has been more concerned with sophisticated design and really moving forward with tabletop game design over the last 20 years has a lot of stuff that's better.
Yeah.
And so there's this almost butting of heads now between this old school style of game, like a Monopoly, which you might have grown up on and that you might have a nostalgia for, and that's great. But I just think that there's other games that do formulas like that better. And
They should
and so-
take a good game designer and have them like, all right, take Monopoly ideas and like craft
Yes.
a better game.
Well, they
around
did
it.
that with like Risk Legacy, right?
And then release, like a Monopoly 2.
Yep.
Because
Yep.
like that would sell crazy.
Oh, yeah.
And like if it was actually a good game, then I think that would catch on.
You're right. There has been some moves in that direction, and I also think that there are some games now. There's some titles that have begun to enter the public consciousness as that are really solid, great, modern board game designs.
So there's a Catan, I think.
Yeah, so Catan has approached that. Ticket to Ride,
Yeah.
I think, is getting into that space of like just public consciousness where a lot of people know it. Codenames, I think, very rapidly has moved into a space where there's a lot of people who know that game. It's a slow process, but I think that's what's happening is that you see these retro things that are doubling down on the nostalgia factor.
They're just trying to sell more copies of the game,
yeah,
essentially,
exactly.
right? I mean,
To World War I veterans? I'm
But-
confused.
but-
I think like Miller said, there is a weird nostalgia. Like I remember my best friend in high school, his mom was like a fan of Monopoly and had like this $100 version of the game that was
Yeah.
made out of wood, and I'm like, what? And like, I don't. Even then, I was like, Monopoly's not really that good. But anyway,
Well, so
I think for a lot of people though, you talk about like how there's better experiences out there beyond this
Yeah.
core nostalgia board game scene, and I feel like so many people will try to take that step maybe based on a friend's recommendation and just get slapped in the face with rules and rules and rules and rules. And I was just talking to you in the office because I'm a huge fan of The Thing, and they released this new tabletop game called The Thing: Infection at Outpost 31, and I was so excited to check it out. And then you gave me the heads up that like might be an hour and a half of learning rules. I'm like, oh, it can't be that bad. And I watched a YouTube tutorial.
Yeah.
And for the first 4 minutes of the tutorial, I'm like, okay, this is doable. This is doable. And then the next 10 minutes, like, what are you doing, game designers? You're blowing it. It's The Thing. It doesn't have to be that complicated.
I think the takeaway here is the understanding that what we talk about is the weight of board games. There's a really broad array of how weighty those games are that are coming out now. A game like Codenames, literally, you don't need to teach at all. You can be playing and have somebody show up at the table and just sit down and start playing.
Yeah.
Because they just watch what everyone's doing and they get it.
Except then they start touching cards. Why didn't you guys choose this one? It's like, oh, God.
You screwed it out. So, that's at one end of the spectrum. And there's certainly, complex strategy games at the other end of the spectrum that take many hours to really wrap your head around. But, I think there's other new games that we can point people towards that do some cool stuff. There's another game from actually the same publisher that does Codenames that I quite like called That's a Question.
That's a question?
Which is a
Hang on, Reeves, do you want to play right now?
yeah.
Okay, and my
Where-
shoes are black.
That's a question?
Incorrect.
You're playing it wrong.
Dang it.
That's a Question is the idea. Basically, you have a weird kind of choice that you're putting in front of the one player, and the other players are voting on what that person's going to respond. So, for instance,
Okay.
you might have which would you miss more if it was gone, Facebook or Doors?
Doors.
And
It's good.
but before Ben would say Doors, we would all sort of vote
On what
and
I was going to
on
say?
what you were going to say.
Oh,
It's
interesting.
a very
okay.
Jackbox
All right, let's
thing.
try it. What would I say?
I think you'd say doors before Miller could finish his sentence.
I'm gonna go Facebook.
All right. I'll see who's right.
Doors.
Doors.
So that's a fun little game. There's there's
What's
another,
that name again?
It's called That's a Question.
That's a question. Okay.
There's another great party game that I quite like this year called When I Dream. That is the idea of you have one person who's sort of blindfolded and is getting little clues from the other players around the table about trying to guess a word. But some of the players have a role where they're trying to trick the person guessing.
Ooh,
I like
this
this
sounds
game
good.
already.
I know you like the way you're trying to trick people.
Yeah.
So there's that kind of like bluffing element.
I don't understand. Why does he have to be blindfolded?
That's
Well,
a question.
Ah,
Again, I don't want to
Yep.
get lost in the weeds too
You're
much.
really good
other
at
than
that.
that,
I'm
like
getting better at it.
the different words are coming up on cards and are going into different categories when they come through in terms of if it was gotten correctly or not. But at the end, the thing that really clinches it for me is that the words that have been guessed, the dreamer who's got the blindfold on has to tell a story of the dream. that has all those words in it.
This sounds like where everything would break down with a drunk family.
It's with a drunk family. It's actually really great because the whole idea is that the dreams are just completely bonkers and disconnected. And I was in my bedroom and there was an elephant outside the window and he had a coffee cup on his head, like just
Scared of commitment,
like weird stuff like that. So that's a game that I really like. Another game that I think you have a fondness for is sort of a weird hybrid video game, board game thing this year is Dropmix.
This is
there we go.
absolutely, because I was thinking about recommendations and the Rock Band. I've done it before. It's a great time. Beatles Rock Band specifically for like bridging generations of having everybody play together. But the idea of hauling all those plastic instruments, putting them in the trunk, forget about it.
And there's like your sister who's just never gonna pick up that stupid toy guitar.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Not my sister.
But Dropmix, I think, is a great solution, and I haven't whipped it out with family yet, but I'm really excited to, especially with like really young nephews, because you said that your kids, that your family lost their effing minds.
Sure.
Yeah, like it's a game that has broad appeal. It can be played as a game, right? There is a structure to it where you've got to choose which cards you play and where you play them onto the board and stuff like that. But it can also be played completely freeform where you're just doing music creation. And that's where I found like particularly young children really got a kick out of it.
You know what they need? They need like a Christmas expansion pack for Dropmix. So you can take those cards, put it on the board, and then it just remixes like sleigh bells and all this magic
That's a good
stuff.
idea.
To back off, to back away here for a second, like the idea, we haven't really explained it, right? For somebody who hasn't played Dropmix. Dropmix is from the same guys who did Rock Band. It's from Harmonix, but in cooperation with Hasbro doing this, like, you have this board, I don't know what you'd call it. It's like a little piece of equipment you put on the table, and it's got different slots for cards, and the cards are each portions of a song. It might be the drum part from one song or the vocal part from another song.
It's an easy DJ remix toy.
It
always sounds acceptable, and it ranges from acceptable to
like really
effing
awesome.
awesome. Yeah, Leo, do you have one of your hot mixes you just want to pipe in here? And so that's the fun part, is just laying different tracks on, whipping stuff off, and then you can hit like a randomized button that'll shuffle everything up. The question is, it's so much better when you have an awesome sound system hooked up to your phone.
I think you can get away with having, like, if you have one of those nice Bluetooth speakers, even a small one, you're gonna have a good time with it.
Okay, nerdy question. The Bluetooth speaker, can you sync your iPhone both to the device? Because that you need Bluetooth for, and to a speaker?
I think you can do it to multiple devices.
Is that
You
right?
can normally do multiple devices, yeah. What I'm curious about, because I've always heard about Dropmix as like the toy version of it, you're remixing songs. I'm like, all right, that sounds kind of neat for people who are into that. And then I didn't even realize until just the other day that there actually is a game part of it where you're getting scored and stuff like that. How does that work? Because that is what interests me.
Yeah, the game part is good. It's made great because of the music component. If it was straight up just a board game that you were playing these cards in particular orders and sort of overriding other people's cards and that kind of stuff, wouldn't you agree it'd be kind of like, it's fine.
You can wear out. Yeah.
Whereas the fact that when you play these cards down, it's changing the music that's happening.
And each card has like a number associated to it, and like you're trying to get
each card has an intensity connected to it, and so oftentimes it's tied to that or the color of the piece. Actually, of the color of the card determines what kind of part it is, whether it's vocals or guitar or drums or whatever.
I'm feeling the intensity right now.
You
just
rocking
hearing
out?
you talk about it.
Yeah. It's just building in you.
Yeah,
it's
that's
almost
right.
like you can hear it.
It's about to explode.
Right.
God, it's like we're at Christmas morning right now. Just these sick
This was
sounds.
coming in from DJ Vader.
Here's my question. With the first time we talked about on this podcast, we talked about Dropmix. You were all on board right up until I said, and it's $99. And you like fell out of your chair.
Yeah.
Now then you played it a good bit more.
And I said, $99 is still an absurd price for this.
Yeah.
But it seems like that price is dropping fast.
Yeah.
Like over
The
Black
drop
Friday.
mixing.
No kidding. over Black Friday in particular, I picked up a copy for like $50.
Yeah.
I feel like a lot of people did, and I'd imagine if you search a little bit, you can find something, and that seems like a great price for that thing.
Yeah, I think it's a really fun experience for families. It's a way to kind of enjoy music and tabletop stuff together.
Yeah.
So that's one I really point
Have they
people
been
towards.
supporting it? Like, have they released like additional expansion packs of like, here's this genre or whatever?
I'll be honest, I don't know the answer to that question. There were a bunch of expansions at launch, right? So
Okay.
you could go out and you get like a hip hop pack or a sort of dance music pack. I don't know if there have been subsequent releases since then. I haven't been paying close
Is there a
enough
Wu-Tang
attention.
pack for cereal?
There
Yeah.
might be. I know that's what you want.
What's your DJ name, Miller?
Thrill Ho.
That sounds great.
I would
Deep
Let's
cut.
go with yours.
I would also not mind a 90s theme song collection
Oh, that'd be
of
great.
TV theme
Oh
songs.
my God,
amazing.
that'd be so good.
Just,
You have the
just-
Doctor Who theme.
I
which
mean,
is really good, but
behind it all is the fact that like Harmonix has figured out a way to do this sort of remixing on the fly thing so that it actually sounds like it's meant to all kind of go
Yeah.
together.
yeah.
And it's kind of fascinating to listen to.
I would argue 2017, no podcast has spent more time talking about Dropmix than this one, which is
That's right.
sure, you got to claim a stake somewhere. Let's go for
We
it.
did it.
This is
But-
our public service.
Yeah. Maybe, Serial, before we get back to Miller's grand list, like, what is like the best time playing games you've ever had with your family? What is your go-to number one recommendation for this is what
Well, the
you
thing
should
we
bring
end up
home?
doing the most is basically like just Mexican bingo, basically.
What is
It's
this?
just-
Okay,
it's-
what?
It's called the Lotteria. It's basically Spanish for lottery. And so
Oh.
you basically have like a deck of cards instead of like whatever you do, like the balls you have to call out in bingo.
Yeah.
And so it's just like this deck of cards. Everyone gets a different sort of card, like larger card with 16 of the cards in the deck, and someone basically like
It
reads.
sounds like the
reads-
worst game ever.
But like
that's
the- but-
kind of amazing.
but like the-
because it's like super accessible,
Right,
right?
it's
Like
super
everybody
easy.
can play it, and everybody's got a deck of cards.
Oh,
Right.
Okay,
So,
triste.
well, but the two ways we make it interesting is one, we bet money on it of like who's gonna win,
Okay.
and the person has to read the cards basically as fast as possible, and there's no like, wait, what was that card? So everyone's just reading like here's all the symbols, and everyone's trying to like place their. It's basically like speed bingo.
It's like speed. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Speed bingo.
So it's like, I'm not gonna say this is the most intricate, like best thing you could do with your family, but if you happen to know Spanish or even
Wait,
just
you
the name
have
of
to
the
know Spanish to play this game?
well, all the cards are in Spanish.
Oh, there's special cards.
Yeah.
El
So, like,
Rey, we got whatever
What-
Queen
yeah.
is.
El Corazón,
Sí.
El Catrín.
Ah.
But you wouldn't even have to. You would just have to know like the names of 50 things in Spanish. I mean, someone could teach it to you in the course of a day, but like,
You can learn Spanish in a day.
No, you can learn.
Okay.
50, I'm sure you can
Serial
learn
can
50
teach it to you in a day.
Spanish words.
All right,
in at least-
guaranteed. Sign
Okay,
up for
all
Serial's
right.
course.
That's right. I'm only teaching a Spanish course specifically designed to
Box
teach you
to
this
teach
one
this
board
one
game,
game.
that I don't necessarily 100% endorse everyone to get.
Exclusive box set.
I love that. I feel like everyone has like those family traditions
do.
that aren't great. Like my
Yeah.
family is obsessed with sequence, which I just found out was invented in Minnesota the
Oh,
other day.
really?
Yeah.
Huh.
'Cause I was trying to find a sequence hat for my dad, and I called up the headquarters in Minnesota here, and they're like, "We do not sell sequence merchandise, sir."
Is this a prank call?
No one on earth has ever asked this question.
What is-
Sequence the game?
What is
Like,
sequence? What is
Oh,
it?
it's so good. It's an all right game. It's just like
okay
a big
game.
board with like 2 of every card, and then you try and connect 4 based on your hand.
Mm.
It's a solid, interesting card game
sure.
where you need 2 decks to play it, which is kind of funky.
you have to know
Um,
Portuguese.
Oh,
But
that's where they get you. Then they
Some
sell you a
Portuguese.
$700 kit of learning Portuguese,
Yeah.
and that's where they make their money.
Reese, do you have a family tradition game that just sucks?
I like playing this game with my nieces called Watch Me Play Zelda. It's pretty fun for me.
Time honored classic
Yeah.
tradition.
Yeah. Well, like I said, recently it's been Jackbox, but yeah, playing the past like Balderdash was a big hit around my family. and
okay.
it's always like a solid, like enjoyable time for everybody.
Catchphrase, also
Yeah.
always
Catchphrase
solid.
is a good one.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think one it requires controllers. One I might try to pull out this year is Stick Fight. which is a Steam game,
boy.
4-player fighting game.
That's ambitious for a
It's
family.
ambitious for a family, but if you have people that actually like video games,
Yes.
So it's not actually a stick fight. You don't actually like get sticks
Well,
and murder each other.
all of your characters are stick figures.
Right.
There's why they're called that. But it's
Mhm.
basically a 4-player brawling game, kind of Smash Brothers style thing where you're trying to knock everybody out. But everybody dies really quickly.
Yeah.
And there's a bunch of different weapons you can throw out on the board. And the thing I think I like about it the most is just that every time a match ends, it immediately rolls into the next match. And it just has like an awesome rhythm to the game.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Where you're constantly rolling from one match to the next, and like you almost never want to stop.
Yeah. Speaking of just 4-player games that came out, video games. Gang Beast just had its official release, and
Yeah.
that's some good, silly fun. We played on Extra Life, maybe even a couple years now. But if you're looking for just, I don't even know, slow, physicsy, funny,
Wrestling
awkward
kinda.
wrestling
Yeah.
brawler, yeah, Gang Beast is a great choice. Or a game that I haven't checked out in its final release, but Crawl is a game that has a cool pitch where it's randomly generated dungeons. One player is controlling the hero, working their way through their dungeons, and then you can have all computer controlled or up to 3 other people controlling the monsters that are attacking him. And then the hero, is leveling up throughout the course of it, eventually going up against a boss. It just came out on Switch. And I'm curious how it would control with everybody
Yeah.
with Joy-Cons, but that could be a great
Oh,
4-player experience, especially on Switch like that.
another Switch game that came out early in the year is Snipperclips, which
Oh,
I had a lot of
yeah.
fun with.
Yeah.
And it's good. It's only 2-player, I think, but with the Switch, you can have each person holding a Joy-Con, and you control these little cartoon shapes, I guess you would
I
call
thought they
them.
were real.
Oh, they're really happening somewhere in the world. Yeah.
Okay.
But you're moving
You're
around.
controlling actual snipper clips around the world.
That's
We're
right.
talking
Who
literal
live in
MFing.
slavery.
Free the snipper!
I don't want to be moving. Stop it. But yeah, and then you place each figure over each other, and you can like cut shapes out of
Yeah.
each other, and then you use those different shapes to like solve puzzles. It's
Yeah.
fun.
Absolutely. Miller, back to your real list here. Do you have like other big recommendations?
Yeah.
Like, hey, check it out if you're into this.
Okay, so let's say you got a family that really likes. Let's say you got a family
Theoretically.
that has a fondness for puzzles. My big top recommendation for you: Unlock. Unlock is a new game.
Oh God, I'm so into this. Okay, hang on.
Okay.
Okay.
Look how big you're
Unlock.
writing it.
Yeah.
This is a board game?
It's a card game,
Card game.
that it basically riffs off of the escape room concept.
Oh.
Have you ever played any of those?
Well, I thought you're talking about like 1,000-piece puzzles, which is also one of my things I
So,
was going to recommend.
here's
Now
what-
I'm completely disinterested.
Have you ever done one of them?
An escape
An
room.
escape room?
I hated it.
Okay.
Really?
I hate puzzles, but I like jigsaw puzzles.
Jigsaw puzzles is one
I
thing.
hate puzzles.
I-
I love puzzles.
If there were
I
more
have no idea
jigsaw
what to tell you about
puzzle-themed
this.
escape rooms,
I can say that Unlock is very cool though. The
Okay.
idea here is that you have this deck of cards that are each labeled by number, and you put out there's a sort of like you buy them in scenarios, right? They're meant to be played. It's pretty cheap to get a single scenario, but you really only play it once. At which point you kind of give it to a friend or something like that. Because once you've solved it, you've pretty well figured it out. But each of you play out the scenario. Like let's say one of the scenarios might be that you're infiltrating a building and trying to steal a particular thing.
What
because
is it?
You're like what are you trying to steal?
yeah.
A special computer.
The
Wait a
Declaration
minute.
of
Have you actually
Independence.
played this game?
This guy's full of
I
ass.
don't know.
And so you get a sort of starter card that you've got to look at and try to figure out. Okay, well now we're out on the street and we need to get into the building. How do we get into the building? And you might look around at the card and there might be something hidden on the card that's like, okay, oh look down here. There's a number on the card. That's a different card that I can pull. Oh, okay, so inside this trash can I found the rope that I need to climb up to the window. Right. Okay. And that card goes here and this card goes here. Different cards begin combining in unusual ways to solve the puzzles at hand. And those numbers will add up to a sum that is yet another card that you pull from the deck.
It's all number-based?
It's pretty much number-based combinations, right? But there's enough cards in the deck that if you combine things wrongly, sometimes you'd be like, oh, well, look, it looks like this is a number and this is a number, so we'll just put this together without actually figuring it out. You can hit fail states, right, where it's like, okay, well, you lose time because of that. And it's all tracked on your phone, right? It pairs with a phone that's like running a timer down.
This is getting more and more
as you play.
complicated.
I don't think it's that's
Okay.
the thing about it is that it's really not complicated at all to play. you just kind of put down the card and, okay, what do we do? How do we move forward?
Yeah.
So that one's really neat if
Huh.
you have puzzle people in your family.
Except family members are pretty puzzling.
I would say the other thing
Wait, there's a single tear rolling down your sheet.
ignore it.
Oh,
The other thing I would point people towards that's been a big deal in the tabletop gaming world in the last couple of years, but certainly this year, has been the growing prominence of legacy gaming. And this is a movement in game design that basically has a game that moves forward and changes over time in reaction to the players.
I think these sound awesome, by the way. I've always wanted to play one. I haven't.
They are a well done legacy game is absolutely amazing.
Yeah.
This is more for like if you're not going and getting together with 30 people in your family all at once, you need a giant party game. If instead you're getting together with like your mom and dad and your brother, and you just want to like a good like 4-person game or something.
Does it max out at 4?
It depends. I mean, there's a bunch. It's not like a single game. This is a whole sort of almost genre that is emerging, but a genre across all sorts of other genres, some of which are adventure games, some of which are city building games. The uniting factor is the idea that it's a ongoing campaign that you play through, and you basically, in most cases, you play out the game so that eventually the box that you have is done, right? But that might happen over like 12 to 30 sessions of play, right? And so you're going to get your money's worth out of it. Along the way, as the campaign and the story moves forward, these games actually have elements that change about the board and about the rules and about the components. So you might have an entirely new location that shows up on the board where you like, okay, well, open this envelope that's in the box that's been sealed up until this point, but this event happened, you made this choice, so now open the envelope, and there's a sticker in there, and the sticker goes onto the board, and it's a whole new location you can go visit in the game world that adds new rules or new characters or things like that. Sometimes it might be a thing that you've made a decision or you made a mistake, and now something's changed on the board, like you can't go there anymore, right?
I'm confused why you're being so vague. I don't understand.
I'm being vague because there's so many different games that do this. But the one I would point you towards as maybe the best example of the form is Pandemic. Pandemic Legacy. Now, Pandemic, you may have is one of those games that's a little bit like Ticket to Ride, which we talked about earlier. It's kind of rising to prominence as like a lot of people have heard of Pandemic. Pandemic Legacy uses the same rules as Pandemic, at least at first, but it integrates that legacy component. The idea in that game is that you're cooperating together. It's a totally cooperative game where you are researchers, scientists, and doctors trying to save the world from a flood of different diseases, right? And so you're traveling around to all these international cities and trying to contain the diseases even as you find a cure. In Pandemic Legacy, this plays out over an entire year of like experiences. So each session is like a month of time that passes, and things change. Like Rio de Janeiro might get infected, and if you don't treat it fast enough, it's just gone.
This sounds really hard to play with a family.
No, I played Pandemic, the normal version. I thought it was kind of just okay. It was pretty easy to understand.
Oh, really?
I thought it was just kind of like okay to not to decent time.
Yep.
Would you think I would like the legacy version better? Do you think somebody who's just kind of ho hum on Pandemic would like be more into the legacy version?
I think that a lot of people that I have met like Pandemic more than maybe you've liked it.
Okay.
But even if you didn't, I think that even if you didn't absolutely love it, the legacy components do add a really special new wrinkle. The sensation of my character has progressed and I made some mistakes and now that character is dead and I'm going to tear up this card.
That's awesome.
Is really appealing. I know that sounds weird, but the idea that you're making permanent changes to the board, you're writing things on the board.
Yeah.
You're adding stickers, you're changing the rules, and the rules that change are customized to the decisions that you have made over the course, not just of tonight's play session, but things that maybe the time you played 3 months ago have changed the board.
It really pays off to have like the set crew.
same
like if you have
group,
like a
exactly.
go-to
And that's why-
gaming crew.
That's why I bring it up as being a fun option for family, because I think it could be a thing that you could bond over with a small group of friends or a small family. That this is what we're gonna do like for a while. We're gonna like get together and like we're gonna play the next session. We're gonna see what happens. We're gonna see how the story develops. Maybe we'll get to see what's in that sealed box that's inside the game box that we haven't been able to open yet because we haven't gotten to that point in the story.
But it takes some families that love games.
I would say that this isn't probably the thing that you're gonna haul out to a bunch of people who've never played games before or anything like that. It probably is something that's a step beyond that. But I would say that especially Pandemic Legacy is not an impossible game to wrap your head around or anything.
Yeah.
It's not crazy complicated.
It's a cool idea though. A cool format.
And there's a bunch of games that do this on varying levels of complexity. But if you want to try it out, go for Pandemic Legacy. That game is amazing. It's now out there's 2 seasons. There's the first season that is starts out in very much the same way that Pandemic did, where you're trying to save the world. Pandemic Season 2 just released. It jumps to 70 years later, and human civilization has fallen. And you are trying to reclaim the world.
Okay.
And both games are awesome.
Sounds pretty good.
I like
The world is ruled by monkeys now.
Yes.
Yep. Nothing but apes. I like the idea of pitching the lore of a board game to my family. I think they would throw me through a plate glass window.
It might not be for you.
That's the other big family game at Hanson's.
What's that?
Throwing you through a window is
Yeah.
That's the other.
Absolutely.
I have a little game. I don't know if you want to just keep going freeform,
Hell
but
yeah.
there's a little game that Miller you turned me on to that I think is great, and you can like fit the entire game in your pocket. So if you have like a game emergency,
Grow up, Reeves.
No. It's
Okay.
called Love Letters.
Oh.
It's fun. It's like 2 people can play it if you want, or you can play up to 4. And I think it's actually better if you play 3 or 4 people.
Yeah.
And it's super simple. Like you have a deck of cards in the middle, and you just have 1 card in your hand. And every round you just draw 1 card and play 1. And it's like the ultimate game is like all the cards have numbers associated to them, and trying to get the highest number. There's some lore associated with it, but you don't need to know about that.
You're
But
trying to get the love letter to the princess.
Right.
And all of the
You
people
don't really
who
need to know about
stand between you and the princess are the other cards.
It's a light strategy game because every card is like, oh, you reveal that person's card, and if it's higher than yours, they're out of the game. That kind of stuff. But it's super simple. Like you don't need I like the amount of strategy to it. It's very light and simple because the rounds last like a minute and a half.
This sounds all right.
And then you
Right.
can like just keep playing rounds.
But it's not. I mean, it's not. Miller, help me out. I'm very stupid. Is there a word that I can use for? It's a card game, but it's not like the deck.
Yeah.
Do you know what I'm talking about? Like
you're not using like standard playing cards.
I guess that. Is there an
Um,
easy shorthand for
I
that?
don't know if there's a shorthand for
Okay.
that. I think other than just saying that, like there's a lot of great card games out there that are easy to learn, easy to teach, but they use custom cards that aren't just
cards.
like Jack, Queen, King, Ace,
Right.
and a bunch of numbers.
Right.
Um,
Otherwise known as the Mexican. What was it called again?
Loteria.
Lotteria. Yeah. Lotteria
Oh, the
deck, as they
lottery.
call it. Yeah, absolutely. Love letters.
Yeah, I like it a lot.
yeah,
Huh.
it's really good.
There's a
seems all right.
Batman version out there.
Really?
I haven't
like
seen
Harley
the
Quinn
Batman
theme?
version.
It's actually the version I have. It
Is
actually
Batman the
doesn't change.
princess?
Yeah, dude, I'm sure it doesn't change anything.
It doesn't
design-wise.
change anything fundamentally of the gameplay.
Yeah.
But what about that licensed stuff? Say, what if someone goes to the theaters this time of year, sees The Last Jedi, goes on YouTube and just writes a bunch of hateful comments about how much they hated it, and then they're interested in playing a tabletop game. Miller,
Okay.
what would you recommend?
For Star Wars in particular.
Sure.
This year had a really great new collectible dice game called Star Wars Destiny from Fantasy Flight Games that I would push people towards. This is not a party game per se,
Okay.
but
It'll clear out a party.
it would clear out a party. But it would be a fun game to like. You and your sister want to play something, right?
Yeah.
And you both are big Star Wars fans.
Twins.
That you could do. Yeah, your name is Luke. Her name is Leia.
Yep.
That kind of
And
thing.
you have to kiss.
Is that a
Constantly.
spoiler? Is it still a spoiler?
I think so.
Okay. Well, we just ruined Return of the Jedi for some people, I guess.
That's right.
Sorry about that.
I'm leaving.
So this is a dice game. So it's
yeah,
more
it's like a
advanced?
collectible dice game. So think it steers a little bit because it's collectible into that range of something like Magic the Gathering, right?
Okay.
Which I think can scare some people away, and it probably should scare certain people away, right? Like if you're not into like I want to collect more cards and stuff, then it's not going to be great. But here it's a mix of cards and dice, and it's a really smart little rule system that you can play with.
Do they look like Hans dice?
No, they're custom dice with the pictures of the different characters from the story on the dice.
And you're
kinda neat.
collecting dice?
The actual thing you're doing before playing is you're collecting them. You're going and buying more dice. But when you're playing, you have certain dice that you're bringing into play, certain dice that are tied to certain cards, and you're playing that. If you want a more traditional kind of Star Wars adventure experience, Star Wars Rebellion is this amazing board game of Star Wars, but that's like a big, fancy strategy game.
Big boy nerd game, as they
Big
call
boy
it.
nerd game.
Okay.
Yep. So I think that those are ways you can tap into that love of Star Wars sort of thing. But other than that, the one other kind of category of things I might point people towards would be sort of dexterity and stacking games, of which I think there's a lot of really fun things.
Yeah.
It's like the Jenga category.
Yeah.
The
Okay.
Jenga genre.
Yeah, that's
yes,
right.
the Jenga category, right? Like if your family likes Jenga, one other game I'd point you to that's a recent game. I think I might have even recommended it last year when we had a similar conversation. Is a game called Junk Art.
Oh yeah.
This one's really neat. It's a fun stacking game that comes with, when you get the box, the rulebook has a bunch of different variations of how you can play. There's like little mini games you can play with it, but it all comes down to these weirdly shaped blocks that you're trying to tower up in interesting ways. Sometimes everybody's got the same color. Sometimes it's that everybody needs to pull the same shape at the same time. Sometimes it's a speed game where it's like, how fast can I build a tall tower and not have it topple? That one's really neat.
You recommended a game, I don't know if it fits within this genre, last year that I've always been meaning to pick up. That's like Tetris based, or it's kind of like Tetris, called Kicks or Twix. Fits.
Yeah, Fits is great if you like Tetris. It's straight up it's almost straight up tabletop Tetris.
Sounds great just
That
because I
sounds
like
pretty
Tetris, but I'm still confused. But okay, other stacking games. Do you have others that you recommend?
Other stacking games. I would say the next place I would go with dexterity games isn't to other stacking games, but rather to like flicking games. There's a
Sir, you'd probably be pretty good at this.
I love flicking.
Yeah.
There's a game called Flick 'em Up. That's a cowboy themed game where you're literally you set up your game pieces and they're little like cowboys and robbers that are represented by little wooden meeple people.
Meeple people?
Meeple. You know what meeples are, right?
No.
Meeples are those little like wooden guys that kind of stand. They look kind of like stick figures. I don't know how to.
I don't know what
you're
you're talking about.
Generic. Meeple's a generic term for these things?
Meeples in games is a thing. Yes.
Yeah.
I don't know how to help you with that.
Do the meeples talk to you?
I
Billy?
think so. I hear them in my sleep.
Wake up,
Okay.
meeple.
Is that appropriate?
Me the meeple.
Anyway, you're sort of flicking these discs across the table to knock over your opponent's cowboys.
Okay.
And that represents having like a gunfight. It's a really cute, fun little game.
I've been meaning to ask you, would you ever recommend just a real gunfight
Yeah.
with your family?
I
Okay.
think that can be a fun thing at Christmas time. Just give everybody a gun.
Every
and
room
see who...
has a different gun in it, and
Yeah.
you guys have to wait until there's
Oh,
only.
it's a Goldeneye. Okay.
That's right,
Yeah. Paintball.
No,
Do
I
you-
don't. I don't recommend that.
Okay.
Do you remember this game, Hanson? We were in London. We saw this game on the store shelves, and it's like you put a piece of like plastic in your mouth,
I've played that game.
and like, do you remember
It's
what
very
called?
popular in stores. It's called like Let It Out or Speak the Truth.
Yeah,
Some,
have you
some
seen that?
garbage.
You know, I think I have seen that game, and the cover is just like this person looking ridiculous with their mouth all
Right.
spread
It looks like
weird.
someone ripped their lips off,
Yeah.
which I guess it's a tough thing because the game itself I think sucks. Or you get a card
Right.
and then it's like, say this sentence where it says, the big old pooch wanted to go to the store, but when
Well,
you're
big
doing it
dog
with your
gotta eat.
mouth like aggressively spread by a piece of plastic, it's like like it's just made for people to laugh and people looking stupid.
Yes.
It's made for taking
Oh,
pictures.
yeah. I didn't want to recommend it, but I was just curious what it was called, and I wanted you to do
Let's
a
just
stupid
start talking about all the games that people shouldn't play.
Oh God, where do I start? Hollow Knight.
Monopoly,
Whoa! I don't know. I'm just trying to
Right out of the
think
gate.
something.
Nier Automata.
I'll save that for emails. Reese. We got plenty.
Perfect.
That's good. Any other quick hits, recommendations for a great time with the family?
I think we covered lots of good bases.
Yeah.
There's always more games to talk about. I mean, I think I would point people towards. I try really hard in our tabletop coverage to cover the bases of both stuff for like serious strategy gamers, but also have entries that speak specifically to like, hey, you want to get together with your family and have a simple, fun game. All that stuff is up on our Top of the Table hub, and you can go check it out if you're looking for recommendations. And I also always tell people at the end of those articles, if you're looking for a specific thing that like I want to play a game with my family that is A, B, and C, and you tell me what those things are. I want it to be a fantasy game. I want it to be cooperative, and I want it, my family loves rolling dice. Then like I'll go through and I'll find a game.
You're saying just leave a comment, you'll get back to them?
Send me an email. Put comments on those Top of the Table stories, and I will do my darndest to get your response.
Yeah, I mean, people might just listen to the podcast, not check out the site, but every other week, right? On the site,
Every other
Top
week.
of the Table.
Yep, GameInformer.com/Top of the Table. We do all sorts of tabletop gaming recommendations, from role-playing games like Dungeons and Dragons to, simple family card games.
At some point, I'm really into this idea with Reeves in a comedic sense, or even with you. I was yelling at you last year, I think, that I want Game Informer's official review of Monopoly. I think that'd be so fun. Or I just want you, like, for one of the Top of the Tables, just like review cribbage.
Yeah,
Tell
chess.
Yeah, tell everybody from the 1600s why they were wrong.
Maybe we could just play around, videotapes.
Yeah,
And then-
Leo, do we have any tape?
Do you have any of those?
Yeah, we got some. Okay,
And
cool.
then just like while we're playing it, like how would we design this better? You know what? We could get the Fantasy Flight guys in.
Yeah,
have them
talk to them
fix
about
chess.
I like
Yeah,
that.
fix
Yeah.
this.
Fix
They
chess.
did. I think it was this year, maybe last year. They released Chess 2 on Steam, which is a very funny name for
Oh,
a
that's
game.
funny.
There's
But
also,
it's like it's not a
Nightmare
joke.
Chess.
Like it's real. Like they actually tried to like rewrite the rules.
Oh, really?
What was that?
There was
Sorry?
also Nightmare Chess, which was like this weird sort of thing that added cards where it's like, for this turn I have like this special fireball power that I can,
Oh.
but only if the knight
weird.
isn't like in this position or something. It was like
That's
a
cool.
weird-
Why not just play XCOM?
I feel like they really handled the bishop the wrong way in Chess 2. I'm holding out
Yeah.
for Chess 3.
Yeah, I think so.
When they're going to redeem that character.
Absolutely.
bring
Too many
back
bold
religions.
decisions. Worship the queen. Well, I don't know if I ever told you. Did you know that my father, he designs cribbage boards.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, that's like his huge thing. He's designed hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of cribbage boards and sells them. Cribbage sucks, right? Is it just a weird Oedipus complex
I have
thing?
no strong opinion about cribbage.
You guys ever played
I
cross
think people
cribbage?
like cribbage.
What is cross cribbage?
Cross cribbage? I don't know if it's something my wife's family invented, but it's like a board.
Well,
It's a
oh,
5x5
yeah.
board. Well, I don't know because they have a board that's made out of wood though, and like you play
They just
cribbage.
get bored and they hit me over the head with it. Is that?
They
is
say,
that a
leave my
game?
daughter alone.
So you guys have heard of it. Anyway, you basically play cribbage in 2 teams of 4, and you play
multiple
crosswise
boards.
on this
Yeah,
board.
that
Oh,
sounds kind of
weird.
fun.
It's actually pretty cool.
Huh, that sounds all right.
I'm sure the rules are online somewhere.
Yeah, check them out. Strongly recommend.
What are we doing now?
All right,
What are we
we
doing now,
are
Ben?
moving on to emails, everybody.
All right, let's do it.
Stay tuned for that. And welcome back to the podcast. We have some great emails that people sent into podcast@gameinformer.com. Gameinformer.com, not net, not gov.
Nuh-uh.
Podcast@gameinformer.com. They sent in wonderful
.edu.
emails. Oh, don't even get me started on EDU. EPU. They sent them in. We chose some great ones. I'm going to read these off. You guys are then going to completely and unanimously choose the absolute best email of the week, and then we're going to ship that person out something real nice, hopefully in time for Christmas, so they can have a little Christmas
Whoa.
or holiday miracle.
That-
I like the 3rd email.
That is fast. You're going to get to him by Christmas?
No promises. Merry Christmas, everybody. We got a ton of Star Wars related emails, specifically about one topic, which I'm not going to talk about, but thank you everybody for writing in. It's a little spoilery. Blake Bacho writes in with one that is answerable. He says, hey guys, so without getting into any spoilers, it seems like The Last Jedi is about as divisive as many had been expecting it to be. But I have less of a problem with what happens in that film than I do with what I think is the bigger issue with the new trilogy. a clear lack of direction. Do you think 7, 8, and 9 would have been better if they'd all been directed by the same person, or like more tentpoles had been laid down ahead of time?
Not necessarily, because the original trilogy was not directed by the same person.
Right. And even though there's a lot of stories about Lucas winging it and not realizing, that Luke and Leia are brother and sister and all that stuff that we spoiled earlier in the podcast, it seems like he still had the rough arc in mind. And diving into more and more Rian Johnson interviews, I'm curious what you think about this, Miller. It seems like a shocking amount was left up to him. Like, I'm used to Marvel films where Kevin Feige kind of lays down the rules of the road here. Like, hey, you can do whatever you want for this film. You can make it a certain genre if you want, even push in a certain direction. But, like, here are the tent poles you have to hit for the continuing storyline of overall Marvel's universe. And I feel like with Last Jedi, I liked it a lot. But it is shocking that I haven't heard him at least say, like, what those tent poles were. It is very much just an agreed upon handshake between J.J. Abrams and Rian Johnson, two very different filmmakers, and just figuring out how that has changed the story is one of the most fascinating things in entertainment.
Yeah, textual analysis of like a film franchise or a game franchise or a book franchise when it's in progress is tricky. I think that The Last Jedi, whatever you think about it, it's going to be really hard to draw concrete conclusions about it until we see episode 9. And as such, that question in particular that our readers asking here is, I think, really tricky to respond to. Do I think that they would be better if it had been a single director's vision? I guess I don't know. Would it have been better if it was one particular director, like if it was Abrams, or if it was Steven Spielberg, or like there's lots of sort of what ifs there. But I don't know that there's any way that we could possibly have the answer to that. And I also don't know the implication behind the question is that they do feel too different from one another. Isn't that kind of what he's asking? That like if it was a more unified vision, would it feel better? And I don't know that I can say what that would be until I see what they do with 9.
Without spoiling anything, because half this table hasn't seen the film, I think there's a lot of evidence you can pull out already if you've seen Last Jedi that like it was a handshake between those filmmakers, but it was a weird handshake.
Yeah, I think it's fair to say that there were some choices about what happened in 7 that Johnson goes in a different direction. Than what it would seem like they were leading towards from 7.
And it's kind of cool that the biggest entertainment property can allow for that level of zigging and zagging based on a creator's will. So it's more, I don't know, heartening that Kathleen Kennedy and everybody else at Lucasfilm could allow this to happen, I guess.
Have they announced who's writing the script for 9? Was it Rian Johnson as well? I thought I'd heard that at one point.
He was originally, it's a long time ago they said that, but actually it's going to be Abrams and the writer of Batman v Superman. So
that'll be kind of weird. It almost feels like
true.
Goes back to
everybody's mother's named Martha now.
Yeah, exactly. To be fair, he also wrote Argo, but I forget his name. But it is one of those things where it's like, if you put this together, it's the guy who wrote Justice League. And also the J.J. Abrams, he wrote Gone Fishing, I think, and Armageddon. It's like if you take the worst films out of everybody's catalog, you can really make an abomination for episode 9.
I just don't know yet, I guess. I think it would be fascinating if somehow there was a way to see like what would George Lucas have made if he had made episode 7, 8, and 9? What would Abrams have done if he had done the entire trilogy? Like, sure. That's an interesting sort of thought experiment. But in terms of making qualitative evaluations about it, I'm kind of in your camp. Whether you like Last Jedi or not, I am heartened by the idea that there does appear to be some creative freedom given and like authorial like intent capability to someone like Rian Johnson to come in and do the thing that they want to do and bring their own vision to the franchise. I mean, in the long term, it is only through that or any other long-going franchise can find success and momentum. The idea of like we always need to stay true to some previous creator's vision of a universe or of a franchise, that feels to me like a recipe for just this is going to get boring.
It's interesting to me.
So that's why you're excited about Metal Gear Survive?
That's right.
Okay.
It's interesting to me to see how much freedom it seems like Rain Johnson had, and I don't know, I wasn't there on the set every day,
Prove it.
but
Most days, though.
yeah, but then with Lord and Miller, it seems like they were not given the freedom they kind of wanted, right? And that's kind of like the scuttlebutt there, and they were kicked off that project because they weren't lining up with what they had and
Well,
what the studio had in mind for that film.
There's an interview I really enjoyed with Ryan Johnson, and sorry if you're not a Star Wars fan. I know this podcast has been a lot about Star Wars, but we like it. But there's an interview with Ryan Johnson. That was interesting, where he's like, speculating about somebody else's set and what happened between the director and the studio. He's like, that's like trying to figure out why a couple got divorced. Like, you don't know, dude.
Yeah.
You don't know. But just to jump in there and speculate about this divorce, talking about like Lord and Miller with the Han Solo movie, it seemed like, based on everything that I've read, that it was more an issue with their production, that they were playing a little bit fast and loose and not filming enough coverage. And so that was more of like a technical disagreement, less so than maybe the overall tone than people would like to think. I don't know.
Yeah, interesting to speculate.
Interesting.
You could only jump
Speculate.
into another reality.
Speaking of which, I guess the art of The Last Jedi has talks about some snippets of George
I've
Lucas's
heard of that.
original vision, and it seemed like a lot of, well, a couple things from 8 he was planning for in 7. So that's a fun glimpse, but it's that tough thing of, I would love to know, Abrams' vision for the trilogy, what he wanted, but it's that interview that they can never do because you can't give fans that ammo just to beat people over the head with.
I will say this again without spoiling anything about the current movie that just released, that the movie does do some things that relate to previous creators on the Star Wars franchise and paying homage to that in compelling ways.
Yeah.
Sometimes directly, and sometimes in indirect ways that they're following through on themes or visual concepts that we saw first presented in some of the old films. Whether you like Last Jedi or not, it is very clear to me that the creators behind this movie loved Star Wars.
Yeah.
And they had a vision for what they wanted to do with it.
And I understand people are divided on Last Jedi to a confusing degree, maybe, but I just love that everybody's analyzing one film so much. It's just nice that, beyond nerds, it just seems like all of society is taking their minds off current events for just a little bit and just focusing on, like, how is this film structured? Like, it's pretty rare that comes up. Anyways, we got a lot of emails, actually, just like 2 or 3 Reeves with arguments for Nier Automata. So shut your
interesting.
dirty mouth.
No, I
seems
got
to
a lot of
be-
emails as well, so your voice has been heard.
Yep,
I'm gonna go
and-
play that game now.
And it's now number 1 on Reeves's top 10 of the year
By
list.
That's
popular
right.
demand.
Yep, there we
By
go.
popular demand, Ben's number 1.
That's how it works.
That's exactly how it works.
Wes Bates from Woodland, California says, "Hey crew, just because it's Christmas time, what was the worst Christmas gift you've ever received?"
I mean, socks, if you want to say worst, right? I know some people who really like socks.
Reeves, those are stockings.
What?
You have them every year.
And you
5
wore them.
socks every year.
One thing that I feel bad about, I got a Christmas gift one year, Shinobi. It was Revenge? What was the Genesis one?
Yeah, Shinobi's Revenge.
It was not the game I wanted, though, and I complained about it. I felt-
On Christmas morning?
Yeah. And my dad got it for me. He's like, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't get you the right gift. And I'm like, this game. And so then I was like, I didn't know anything about it at the time. And so I went out to like a Blockbuster and rented it to play. Because I didn't want to open it because I wanted to return it. And I played it at home. I'm like, actually, this is kind of cool. But then I still returned the game anyway.
That's confusing.
I was like, I feel bad now. I'm like, I should have been nicer.
Yeah.
But I was like, oh, that's the worst gift I've ever gotten.
God, yeah, the game gifts are as a specific subsection. Like, I remember I got like Twisted Metal 4 one year, and I think I wanted Twisted Metal 2. It's like, okay, sure.
Yeah.
I'll learn to love Microblast and all these wonderful Twisted Metal 4 characters that people immediately forgot about. Miller, worst gift? Everything's wonderful under the sun?
Yeah, I don't know. I kind of think if somebody's gonna take time to get me a gift, it's
Yeah,
kinda
come
nice
on, you softy.
That I can't think of anything that I was just like outright this was a bad gift. I like gifts that are this isn't a bad gift, but I really like gifts that like say something about the relationship that you have with that person. So I don't always love like money. when I was a kid.
Well, it describes your relationship with your wife pretty well.
Right. That's just my wife just sends me money from wherever she's living now. I don't even know. You surely had like an uncle or a grandparent that was like all they got to a certain point in childhood. And just like, I give up. Here's some money.
Right.
I didn't love that.
You wanted something more.
Well,
affecting.
I just like I don't, and I like what like sometimes I really like think a lot about the gifts I'm gonna give to people, especially like the kids in my family, the nieces and the nephews. And my wife's like, well, we should just get them a gift card to this thing they like, and I don't like to do that.
You like to give them individual Dropmix cards.
Sure.
Every year.
Yeah, exactly. But that's it, just Dropmix cards, even though they don't like Dropmix.
We don't own the game, monkey. I remember one year I really wanted a didgeridoo, Miller, believe it or not. Miller saw that I scribbled down the word didgeridoo.
A little behind the scenes here. Yeah. Ben's got very carefully printed notes where he's highlighted things and crossed things out to bring the best possible podcast to you.
Yeah.
But I look over and the one thing that he's added post printing is like, don't let me forget. It's just hyphen didgeridoo.
I don't know why, but for some reason, I asked for a didgeridoo. I think I was in like 9th grade. And my parents are great, and they found one online, and they bought it for me.
That's awesome.
Then I got it at home, and it just, they didn't, I don't think they knew this when they bought it, but it's just got like weed leaves all over it.
So it's a marijuana
It's a marijuana-themed didgeridoo. And I got it, and they whipped out the home video camera back there in 2001 or whatever it was. And they're like, all right, watch Ben play his first notes on the didgeridoo. I was like, all right, didgeridoo, these sound sweet. I tried blowing into it, and it's just like, what the hell? And I was completely distraught because I'm like, this is just a tube. Like, I wanted an instrument. I wanted a didgeridoo. And so I was convinced for days that, like, we were scammed online, that this wasn't a real didgeridoo. And then it turns out didgeridoos are just a tube. You have to do crap with your mouth to make them actually make good sound.
And that's why you can never work for the FBI, because it looks like you're smoking.
That's right, FBI. I don't know how they got that footage.
Yeah, that was his dream. Hanson worked for all those years to get into the FBI, and now he's here.
I had the
ripping
t-shirt.
along. I can't let you in the
Sad
FBI.
Story.
That's silly. Anyways, Adam from Utah has an interesting one. He says, "Hey crew, I'm having trouble." I like the way this is framed. Like he's really struggling with it, but it's interesting. Adam says, I'm having trouble getting excited about BioWare's new IP, Anthem.
Mm-hmm.
This is going to be an open world game, probably in the vein of Destiny. I played and enjoyed, but didn't love Mass Effect Andromeda and Dragon Age Inquisition. But man, those worlds were boring. The quests were as generic and vanilla as they come. Mass Effect especially really dropped the ball. I guess all I'm saying is BioWare doesn't have a good track record of open world games. Their strength lies in story and characters, both of which I'm assuming will be lighter if this is a Destiny-style game. What do you think? Does he have reason to be worried about that?
I don't think it's uncalled for to not be excited about a game you've seen like maybe one, maybe two trailers of.
Well, I think it's just the one gameplay video,
Yeah.
which was surprisingly thorough. You know?
But it feels if we don't have an idea of the scope of that game like whatsoever, and he brings up good points about sort of the BioWare's recent track record. Although I mean they did have some management shakeups recently.
Yeah.
So I there is some hope there. It's just I again find it a bit difficult to get hyped over a game where you've seen maybe one thing and it's not sort of like concrete in your mind of like what is this game. We have maybe a vague idea, but not exactly of like what those loops are going to be.
It is upsetting though. Just a studio as talented as BioWare, I feel like they have this message that everything has to be open world, bigger the better. It seems to be the end point for RPGs these days, and it's just like I feel like they could nail it. Well, this is all nonsense, right? Just speculation. But it's like if they just made linear is too strong of a word, but a more focused RPG experience again, I feel like the fan base would be so happy with that. I feel like, don't you feel there are more BioWare fans that want some old school BioWare experiences more than them attempting to tackle an open world one more time?
I think that you're right. There's certainly lots of fans who would love that. As regards to Anthem, though, I just don't know that we know enough about it to be able to draw many conclusions. I mean, I think BioWare could BioWare make an amazing Destiny-style open-world shooter, story-driven game? Yes. That is conceivable in my mind.
Yeah.
But Bungie is a gigantic team with huge resources at their disposal.
Who've reworked the core systems again and again and again. They're still getting their ass kicked.
And still are very much struggling. I cannot stress enough how much I think games like Destiny, and maybe the only other one out there that's in that same vein is The Division, how incredibly complicated it is to get right. And, you know, I would say there's very, very good reason to be skeptical of BioWare because they are one of the best designers that I know, and they're going to try to do this kind of a game. In other words, there's no one I could hear that is going to try to do one of these games, and I wouldn't be immediately like, whoa, that's going to be hard. Good luck, guys.
Right.
And that certainly includes BioWare.
Did you play Andromeda, Miller?
Yeah.
Were you in the game club? I'm sorry if you were, and I completely forgot.
No,
about it.
Andromeda had some serious problems.
Yeah, it's one of those things where at what point does that reputation start to drag them down? Where I just think of everyone goes BioWare, great storytellers. I just think of that main villain, the Archon in Mass Effect Andromeda. Like,
it's not
embarrassing, and for
not,
like the greatest storytellers in the industry, as people see it, like it's just unfathomable.
Not just that too, but like the Dragon Age games, I have not been a fan of.
Yeah.
I don't think those were solid storytelling either. Like, you know, I feel like
beyond number one.
Number one, kind of, yeah.
Oh wow, okay, so all of them.
I wasn't super hot on number one, but
Okay.
yeah, definitely like 2 and 3 were not good. I don't even think they were good games, but I love BioWare of yore, and I love Jade Empire. Make a sequel, please. But and I like the Mass Effect trilogy, but kind of like outside of that,
yeah,
I feel like they have not produced something
it's
that
important.
I really loved in a while.
Yeah, it's important, I think, to point out that, you know, the Anthem team is that core Mass Effect 3 team. Casey Hudson started the project, then left to win at Microsoft, and now has come back and is running the overall
Andromeda
studio.
was a lot of different people.
Yeah. And Dragon Age is a different team too. But I mean, some of that stuff shifts around. Like
Yeah.
you don't know how many people
And who was on leave
was on the
for
core
this
team
or
and
that.
who left and who came, and
Yeah, we haven't talked about it on the podcast, but Dragon Age's creative director also left recently, BioWare. So it's in a weird spot, and for them to try and, you know, make a bold new vision with this type of game that we think Anthem is, like, that's so hard.
Anthem will need to be a success. I will make this prognostication. To be a success, EA needs to bet very, very big on it.
Yeah.
They need to spend enormous sums of money and spend a lot of time building it for Anthem to have a chance to, like, if we're reading it correctly. I mean, they certainly build it. If we're misreading it as a Destiny style game, that's not our fault.
Yeah, they
Because
haven't
the
gone
way
out
they
there,
presented it at E3 was almost like it was like they walked up to the line of saying like, "Hey guys, this is a game like Destiny, but it's not."
Right.
But didn't say that out loud. Right? Like there was everything about that presentation that was to lead players and maybe investors towards the implication that that's what they were doing. But if that is what they are doing, it's going to take a lot of manpower and a lot of time and a lot of iteration and experimentation
They've
to get
already
right.
had 5 years at this point.
To go back to his question though, like he said, like he's having trouble getting excited for it, and I'm like, well, I mean, so what? Like, there's no reason you have to be excited
No.
for this game.
Right.
There's so many games on the horizon that are worth being excited over.
Yeah.
That I would say focus on those, and then when it comes down the pipe and like we know more about Anthem, then maybe you will start to get
I
excited.
think that's really good
or at
advice,
least
Ben.
you'll know that. Well,
Yeah.
maybe it's just not the type of game for me.
And
Yeah.
we've talked about it before, but just that idea, Miller, of EA is going to have to sink a lot of money into this. And if a publisher sinks a lot of money into something, they're going to want their return on investment. And the biggest way to do that is let's get some microtransactions and loot boxes up in this thing. And so who knows? But God, that's scary. It's a scary recipe.
I would be amazed if Anthem wasn't awash in microtransactions.
Yeah.
Right?
Merry Christmas, everybody! What's this? I think Santa Claus is coming to visit. Oh, Santa, what are you doing here?
Oh, ho, ho!
Oh, what have you come here for?
I've come bearing gifts.
What kind of gifts?
Here, open this box.
Oh my God!
All
Sorry.
3 of you.
Wait, I'll open the box at the same time?
Yes.
Okay.
It's a
open
joint
it.
gift.
Wait, did you give us a joint,
What?
Santa?
It's
What
a
the
bunch
hell,
of
Santa?
joints.
A big old doink?
That's right. Squeaky, squeaky, squeaky.
Thanks,
Oh, let me put
Santa.
some oil on that.
How'd you know what we wanted?
Well, I'm psychic. Don't you know?
I'm meaning to ask, Santa, what do you do the rest of the year up there at the North Pole?
Oh, you know, pet my reindeer.
For a year?
That's right.
That's some heavy petting.
Yeah, we get petting on.
Excuse me, sir?
I also knit
Did what?
reindeer. What do you think they're made out of?
Oh, Santa, I love you so much. Don't ever go.
Never let the magic die.
All right, bye, Santa. God, what a beautiful Christmas.
Sorry, guys, I had to run to the bathroom. Did I miss anything?
Yeah, no,
No,
nothing at
no,
all.
you're fine.
It's cool.
You're fine.
Billy Cloudcaster from Virginia says, "Hello, hello, Benions, Ben and his minions. Hello." He's wondering, with the recent releases and announcements of Vita games such as Stardew Valley, Catherine, and Papers, Please, he's realized how much developers still love the Vita, even though Sony seems to have given up on it. Are developers that have a lot of passion for the Vita and are making these amazing ports enough to keep that system alive beyond just an occasional news story? Like, is it worth investing in a Vita just because of this bizarre slow trickle at this point?
Ugh, I don't know. I
I
kind of
think you-
forgot that it was dead already.
Yeah,
Like,
I feel like that's the first time someone in this office has used the word Vita in a pretty long time.
I will say, Kyle, that's his name. He plays his Vita occasionally.
say it.
That Kyle guy.
He seems to like his Vita. In fact, he was like, "Oh, maybe I'll get. There's some game coming out." He's like, "Maybe I'll actually get that on Vita."
Are you thinking of the Switch?
Yeah, I'm thinking of the Switch.
Okay.
No,
he likes
He-
Nintendo Switch.
I-
That thing's really good.
I was pretty excited for the Vita like 2 years ago because of the remote play functionality, and I've probably used it twice. It doesn't
Yeah.
work that well. Even
Yeah.
when I'm in my own house, like I'm on a different level, I'm like, oh, I can just play my PlayStation games from a different room. But I'm like, it doesn't work as well as I'd like it to.
I guess I'll go play Killzone Mercenaries.
I mean, at this
some
point, I would say it's all about the games you want. If you see a lot of games on that list that you actually want to play,
Yeah.
sure.
I guess at this time, I'm just curious, like, when it comes to those ports, you know, who has a Vita but doesn't have like a PlayStation 4, who doesn't have, you know, any of the other consoles those systems are for. And I mean, like at this point, I know where my Vita is, but I'm 100% sure it's not charged at all. So I'm gonna have to go through the process of charging it. And it's that point, yeah, it's smaller and more portable, but like I may as well just go play it on another console. So I don't think that it is, and it's I think if they're porting it to Vita, they have to imagine like maybe it's easy enough to port for that you may as well, but I don't think the Vita is alive, being kept alive, and is worth being kept alive. Like it baffles me when games are on Vita, other than like I guess there must be like a port to Vita button on.
What's
My-
Latin for death, by the way?
I'll tell you. I think the time that you should feel okay about abandoning a console or a portable system is when the publisher does too, and I
Yeah.
feel like they have. Like
They did a while
like
ago.
Sony doesn't talk about it anymore. When you go to press conferences, there's no significant element of support or engagement with it. And if they don't care about their product, why should I?
Yeah, it's a weird piece of history.
Good point.
Yeah. Oh my God!
Ho, ho,
Santa,
ho!
what are you doing
Are
here?
you guys down in the dumps?
Yeah, we're just talking about the Vita, Sandy.
Oh, I brought you Vitas. Vitas for everybody.
No, Santa, we were just talking about how that's not
What?
relevant.
Oh,
Kids
no.
don't like
You
those
actually
anymore.
like
Oh.
send these to Goodwill.
I just have them
Santa?
laying around. I
Why-
got so many of
Why
them
do you
now.
keep buying these Vitas?
Why do I keep doing this to myself?
Have you heard of the Nintendo Switch?
Switch?
Yeah, you can make kids happy.
Like a stick?
Yeah, why don't
Like
you
the
get
thing my grandfather used to use to beat me? When
Santa?
Oh,
I was
Santa.
a disobedient little kid and I didn't get presents.
Santa, no.
Young Santa, no.
Is that your origin story?
Oh, that's right. And I decided every kid should be happy.
Well, they're not going to be happy with Vitas no more, Santa.
Oh,
You're giving them
no.
worse gifts than the sticks.
All right, I guess it's back to Switches.
Okay, bye, Santa.
Bye.
I love you. Pat from Massachusetts. Pat
Oh,
from
hey,
Mas-
Ben.
Pat
on?
from Massachusetts says,
Where have you been, Ben?
Oh, sorry. I was hungry. I went and got a snack. Did I miss
Man, you
something
guys stop
again?
leaving the
No,
podcast
it's fine.
all of a
Oh,
sudden.
okay.
Pat says, hey, deep cut. Did Mechasalt 2 Lone Wolf have the best multiplayer or one of the
Oh.
most interesting mechanics ever for online multiplayer? At first, I was with Miller. I said, ho, that is just
Is
ridiculous.
that the one? Is that the one with that had the crazy like ongoing? Campaign
Yes, I
thing?
did not know this. Pat describes it
Yeah.
here. He says, you choose a faction to represent and then a planet to try and conquer. The planet you chose would dictate the type of multiplayer match, team deathmatch, conquest, and if your team won, then your faction would control more of the universe. So it's like warring factions, but that also relates to the modes available to play in the game.
Let's talk for a moment, shall we, about one of my favorite games of 2017. Suriel Vasquez is one of his favorite games of the year.
For Honor.
What?
For Honor does something very similar,
Yeah.
and this lady or gentleman, gentleman,
Pat. So good luck.
would be well
Maybe it's
advised
a dog.
to go check out For Honor. It's a really cool game, and it does a bunch of this stuff.
But not with modes. It's like the different factions.
Yeah.
Well,
are
to some
warring.
degree with modes, like there will be like
Yeah.
you
You
so
can
you're
choose the
basically
mode.
you choose a faction and you're basically fighting a war on two fronts. And so if you want to push this front, you play like team deathmatch, and if you want to push this front, you play like 2 versus 2.
It is literally this. That's amazing.
It's pretty neat, and that game is the reason that Suriel and I like that game so much is because despite some technical problems at launch and some continuing problems that they've had throughout its first year, they have supported it really well, and the core experience, the core combat there is really, really cool and different from anything else out there in terms of like a great melee combat system that requires a lot of skill. There's a bunch of different classes.
They're also adding dedicated servers. I think they're testing them now, so it might resolve some of those technical issues.
So
They're just testing them now, like 10 months after
well,
the
like
game came out?
they've released sort of like dedicated server. They've released the update in a test form of like go play on dedicated servers, and we'll see if if there are any issues to iron out.
I mean, the game had. I don't think even the people who really like the game, like myself, would say that it was like, oh yeah, this game was totally solid at launch and didn't have any problems.
Just
it had
a lot of
big
disconnects.
problems.
Even now, like the people will drop out, and there doesn't seem to be that much of a penalty for it. But
Yeah.
Also worth pointing out, no mechs. So I mean, if
Oh.
the mech aspect is what this person is coming to that game,
well, that's
for,
a good
then-
expansion
Yeah.
pack.
But
That's true.
Pat's question is a good one. Like, yeah, that's a cool. That was a cool idea then. It's a cool idea now. I would love to see more multiplayer games embrace a more sort of ongoing engagement campaign thing.
It's funny to
as an
think of the
option.
multiplayer games that no one talks about anymore and what state those universes were left in. Like last year, there was the really cool underappreciated game that I cannot remember the name of. Help me, Miller, where you're inputting the Konami code style inputs, 4-player co-op
Helldiver?
fighting. Helldivers.
Helldivers.
Yes,
Yeah.
that had that concept, right? Like, what universe,
Yeah.
what state is that universe in? Did one team
I haven't-
eventually win?
I know that they continue to expand on that game for a good while after launch. I'm not sure of its current state of support, but that was a great game.
I like that game a lot.
Yeah.
That'd be another game. I know we were past the like play with friends portion, and we're not supposed to be talking about co-op games anymore.
Never.
Yeah, but that'd be another like good family game to play.
Well, with gamers,
Good
though.
co-op. Yeah, another gamer game.
Yeah, that's a
Gamer ass game for gamers.
It really is. Subhead.
Andrew Vala says, "Good morning, crew. Recently, Kumail Nanjiani started a Twitter thread looking for the best movie commentary recommendations for filmmakers. I saw Kyle jumped in to this thread on Twitter, and he recommended Cannibal the Musical, which is Matt Stone and Trey Parker, because apparently they're like, this is unwatchable, and they leave after a couple minutes. But
It's really good.
But it's crazy because Andrew writes in and he says, about 10 years ago, I picked up a movie called In the Name of the King, A Dungeon Siege Tale, starring Jason Statham and directed by Uwe Boll. The commentary track was one of the most bizarre and confusing experiences I have ever had in any situation. During Uwe Boll's solo commentary, Boll got up and walked out of his own commentary on 3 separate occasions without stopping the movie. Hand to God, there was dead air during his commentary as he left to get some cake from the break room.
Why not just pause it?
Oh man, this sounds amazing.
And then came back to eat it during his commentary. If that's not strange enough for you, he received a call in the middle of the film and kept the commentary recording for 20 minutes.
That's amazing.
that is really great.
Especially if there were personally revealing details.
Right.
It's like, oh, could you give me a number? Yeah, it's 616 13.
Yeah. Well, it's like in the latest Nathan For You, like the finale, Leo, there's the Bill Gates impersonator just takes calls during the commentary. Anyways, so he says, this finally brings me to questions for the group. If you could have any director record a commentary for any film or TV show, what would it be?
I would love
including games, by the way. Like Valve does a great job. Of
Oh
adding
yeah, I guess I was
commentary
going.
tracks.
I actually really like those Valve commentary tracks. They're
Yeah.
totally worth. And then what Double Fine does a couple too.
Yeah.
For their recent re-releases, which I thought the one on Grim Fandango was actually really cool.
Yeah. Yeah.
Worth listening to. I was gonna say I'd love to have a director commentary for Metal Gear Solid 5. And just to like hear because I'd love to like know the actual like if they went actually into it, like what their like what the story of that development was and what they had maybe originally planned that got cut, and I think it'd be really interesting.
But it would still be all right. Big Boss is running across the desert again. Let's fill time. I gotta go eat some cake in the break room for 20 minutes. Like there's so much gameplay that'd be tough. But if there were like triggers during the cutscenes,
Well, that's how Valve does it with theirs.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, which is just video game commentary is tough to do. I feel like we've been doing more and more of it, and there's more coming up in the future from Game Informer's content of like developer commentary over games. And I always find that stuff really interesting. We have one that is going live soon for like Mega Man 7, which is interesting just like to have a casual conversation with some old school guy at Capcom talking about Mega Man. But the one I think of immediately is it's insane that Spielberg is such a film fan and he's never recorded a commentary track.
Never ever, really?
For as far as I know, for any of his films. It is outrageous. I want that Jurassic Park commentary track.
Yeah, that'd be good.
Can I bring someone back from the dead?
Andrew says yes.
I would like to listen to J.R.R. Tolkien watch The Lord of the Rings.
Oh,
good.
That's really good.
Yeah.
So good.
He nailed it.
Yeah.
This is exactly what I wanted. I'm burning my
be
books.
that. It would not be that. You know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah. What do you think you'd have the biggest issue with?
The violence.
Oh,
Yeah.
really?
Yeah.
He's a big peacenik?
Where's all the singing?
No, he was a soldier actually, but like, I think as a result, as a soldier, he like saw some pretty hard things, and and the Lord of the Rings books, while they have combat and battles and things like that, it doesn't revel in them, shall we say, the way that the movies do.
Well, hell, let's just keep going. Let's have him do the commentary track for Shadow of War.
Mhm.
Let's put that
There we
there.
go.
See what he says.
I love the microtransactions.
Yeah. Does the sound of a noose swinging have anyway, go ahead.
I think Resident Evil 4 would be pretty interesting.
Ah.
Just because it is a project that went through sort of multiple stages and was canceled. Like basically they had to rebuild that entire game and just trying to figure out like, okay, here's why this camera is, the way it is, and like just all the design decisions that sort of flowed from that and how they designed those encounters, I think would be fascinating.
And
look at.
Mikami isn't one for, I don't know. Has he done like a big post-mortem? I know every time we've tried to ask him about it, he's like, let's talk about Evil Within. It's like,
Yeah.
oh, now he just wants to talk about Bethesda stuff, which is understandable.
Mhm.
But speaking of which, Miles from Eden Prairie says, hey, crew, what is a pipe dream game that you'd like to see released? By this, I mean a game that has been shelved or canceled and for all intents and purposes has no chance of ever seeing the light of day. For me, it would be Resident Evil 1.5. Capcom made about 60 to 70% of what was originally going to be a Resident Evil 2 before deciding it wasn't up to quality and starting all over. Like I said, it's a pipe dream, but I would love for them to pick back up and finish what they started.
Yeah.
The pipe dream canceled stuff.
We did a story in the magazine about this like 6 months ago or something. Like everybody picked their favorite game that they would like to see come back, and mine was StarCraft Ghost. Which I would love to see. I'm sure it doesn't hold up now mechanically, but like, and even I know Blizzard squashed it, so they must have had problems with it to begin with. But like, I love the Splinter Cell style stealth, and I love the idea of setting it in like a future, and I like StarCraft as well. So it felt like the perfect fusion for me of like things I like.
Talented Studios, yeah. It's fun to go back and read that Game Informer cover story. A lot of promise there.
Yeah, no, it sounded super cool.
Especially with like Blizzard having those vanilla WoW servers back up. You think Blizzard, maybe more than any other company, you think, God, there's a chance.
Yeah,
There's a chance they would just put it out there in the state it was in.
Yeah, how close to done was it? It was probably pretty done, right?
I mean, it was playable at E3 and stuff.
I mean, people played it. But I just think that they wouldn't put it out there because it's not like WoW, which was a released product.
Yeah.
Right. And then kind of went away because of Cataclysm. Right. Ghost didn't come out specifically because of quality concerns around it. And so for Blizzard to put it out there and be like, hey, here's this thing that we really didn't think was good enough to release back then.
But knowing Blizzard, like their quality concerns are so stringent, like I bet it would have been like an 8. Like a good, solid, decent, fun time. It just wasn't like the 9, 10 that they wanted.
Yeah. I mean, I'm trying to remember. Is it just that someone who worked on it leaked it and Blizzard didn't squash it? But that Warcraft Adventures the adventure game. I know that that's playable
Yeah.
now, but I don't think they sanctioned it, right?
Yeah.
I can't imagine. Yeah, it's a tough one. I mean, just because our head's been in Mega Man, like it's weird to go back and look at the Mega Man Legends 3 gameplay footage they released, and I wouldn't want it to be on 3DS anymore, but I would love something in that vein of Mega Man Legends.
Yeah.
There's a part of me that wants to dive into Recore, just thinking that it'll scratch some Mega Man Legends itch.
You are incorrect.
Okay.
Probably not.
I would want to play the that Star Wars game that was the smuggler game. What do they call it? 1313.
Oh, yeah.
There we go.
That
Yeah.
would have been.
So you'd rather play that one than Amy Henning's one?
No, I want to play that game too. I think it's a kind of a travesty that both those games are gone.
Yeah.
And that we
What
never
if
saw
Rian
them.
Johnson directed those, though? Would you still be into it?
I don't know. Maybe.
Hey, maybe. Like they were retrofitting it to Star Boba Fett. I don't know. Did you read Jason Schreier's book, Blood, Sweat, and Pixels? He has a whole chapter on 1313, which is
Yeah.
very, very good.
Cool.
Recommend checking it out.
It was actually really interesting. Yeah.
It was actually.
It actually was.
No, for
I was
real,
surprised.
though.
I was like,
It was
Yeah.
for a
real.
book, you know.
I mean, yeah.
For
for
reading.
Yeah, if you're
Yeah.
into books.
If you're into reading
into
things.
like
Words
looking
on a
at all
page.
those words.
Anyways, Bruce Dixon says, "Hey, I've come to think that the Guerrilla staff was asked to come up with new IPs." Talking about Horizon Zero Dawn, he says, "New IPs what? A year after Enslaved came out? Horizon Zero Dawn is Enslaved Odyssey of the West with dinosaur robots. Horizon Zero Dawn is my game of the year, by the way, but he says that it is Enslaved in the same world." This email was really weird because just last night I watched Danny O'Dwyer's No Clip documentary about Horizon, which is very good if you want like over an hour long deep dive into that studio's transition and stuff. But in that documentary, they talk about how they were prepping Horizon Zero Dawn before even Killzone Shadowfall for PS4, and then they saw Enslaved be announced,
Interesting.
and they're like, "Ooh, this is scary. Let's
Yeah.
go ahead and put it on the back burner."
Oh,
And then-
really?
Yeah, and so they backburnered Horizon for a little bit, and then another one of the new IPs that they were working on was like a shooter that took place in London. It was kind of steampunky, and they were ramping up with that one. And then The Order was announced, and then they're like, "Ooh, maybe not."
That's rough.
Yeah, and then they made
So-
Killzone Shadowfall, and then they
In a
ramped up with
few
Horizon after
years-
that because they realized like, "F it," like.
We got to do this.
And it's so different from Enslaved, just
Yeah.
because there's buildings overgrown with
Right.
grass. Like, come on, everybody.
I got that same sense from like Last of Us because they have a similar like design sense
Yeah.
with Enslaved too. It's just like the overgrown foliage of over dilapidated buildings, which I think is a really cool like look for
Yeah.
a game.
Yeah, your favorite game, Nier Automata, does that.
It's true.
Yeah, if any game has it, it's automatically number one.
That's right.
2017.
That's
That's
why
your Ben Reeves
Nier is
accent.
my favorite game. Number one with a bullet.
It's near to my heart, buddy.
That's right.
What if robots were people?
I don't know where I was going anymore.
It's a cool look.
I like Evolve though. I thought that was a good game.
We didn't talk about Evolve, but thanks, Reese. Anyway, Zachary Stone writes in. and
What
says-
game were we talking about?
It's not important.
Enslaved?
Enslaved.
Yeah.
Oh, God.
Hold on.
Injustice is great. Hey, Zachary Stone says, "Hey, people, Meeple, my question is, what game
Wake up.
is
Nicole.
something that you really enjoy but your friends don't? For example, I play all the Lego games, but most of my friends are into FPS games."
Oh, interesting question.
Define friends. No.
What is this friend?
Just like people you hang out with.
Meeple. Okay.
One game I was screaming about for like the last 3 years is Box Boy games that me and Kyle are about
Oh, the
other
Box
people-
Boy genre.
Yeah, the Box Boy genre of games. Those are really fun,
Well,
and nobody else I know plays them, even though
we
I've
don't
been raving them.
mind the game, but just you constantly yelling about
You
them.
really like those games a lot.
It's just at the top
Those
of
are
your
fun
lungs.
games.
Yeah.
Hey, if you like puzzle games at all, and you like light platformers, I would say play that.
Yeah.
Resogun.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, that's the best game. It's so good.
Miller, maybe back after the show with the interns, Resogun might come up a fair
Oh,
amount.
really?
Yeah.
I love that game. I think Housemarque makes amazing games. I think that they, it's like a master class in arcade design, is what they do.
Yeah.
You just look at how those games are put together, and oftentimes there's just no mistakes in games like.
And you feel like you're a little bit out on
Resogun.
an island.
I think there's other people who recognize Resogun's brilliance, but I don't think there's a lot of them in this office.
Yeah.
Would you put it above near or Next
Machina?
Machina?
I think Next Machina is also really, really good.
Mhm.
It's one of my top games of this year.
How's it
Um,
compared to Evolve?
That's a hard one.
Yeah.
It's a hard one, Ben.
One of my favorite games.
I know you like Evolve.
All right, stop screaming about Evolve.
One game that I'll just keep jumping in. Mushroom Wars, which Hanson,
Really?
you
We're
turned me on
getting
to this
into
earlier
we're
this
getting
year.
into like underappreciated games now, but absolutely.
I think this game, it's like the simplest like RTS in the world because you just like control a bunch of houses and your dudes are all stationed there, and then you can choose to send like 25 out or like 50 out.
We got 25 dudes,
That's-
50 dudes, whoever many dudes
You got as
want
many
out.
dudes as you want. We'll send them all out to you.
Just dudes being
Just
dudes.
call me up. Say how
Just-
many dudes you want.
Just to be
All
clear,
right.
Miller, are you thinking of Mushroom Men when you sigh and say, "Oh, brother"?
I don't think so.
Okay.
Okay.
You're thinking of Children
Mushroom
of Men.
Wars. It's like an RTS.
Yeah.
Mushroom Wars came out like what, 5 years ago? Something.
Mushroom
like that?
Wars 1.
Yeah,
no one
but
ever
Mushroom-
talks about or plays those games.
Mushroom Wars 2 just came out this year.
Okay.
Yes.
And I was like playing it when we were in Japan. And I was like, it's surprisingly addicting to the point where it's like, I just need to keep playing this game.
I'm so
so I
funny
can
you
get it
bring
out
that
of
up,
my head.
Reeves. Yeah, I'm so happy you brought that up because I think they've now patched in local multiplayer, but it shipped with that completely broken, which is a real bummer because that was the thrill of that game. But I still think that Mushroom Wars formula is the cleanest way you can actually make an RTS that is not a problem to play on a console. Like I was recently playing Halo Wars 2, and still it's an RTS, with a controller. But Mushroom Wars 2, I had the situation where I had a lot of Star Wars Last Jedi podcasts that I wanted to listen to, and I'm like, I need a podcast game. Where can I find a podcast game? And I finally started up Mushroom Wars 2.
Oh, yeah.
Great.
You like
Great
it?
time. Yeah, I really love it.
Yeah. It's fun.
Hey, it's
Hey.
great.
What am I telling you? It's almost as good as Evolve. But anyway, Serial?
I really
Shut
like
up.
the Bionic Commando Rearm too, and it just feels like I'm the sort of the only one. I think a lot of people had a lot of negative reactions coming off of the first Bionic Commando Rearmed.
People like Rearmed.
No,
right?
Rearmed 2, I mean.
No, I know.
Right,
but
people like Rearmed, but I don't remember seeing a lot of
Yeah,
love
the
for
second one
Rearmed
didn't get
2.
as much like
Yeah.
praise.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I enjoyed it a lot. That's
Okay.
that's all I got.
I guess.
That's all I got, guys.
Can you believe that?
You can
You
jump
with
in
your
that
Mushroom
game.
Wars over here.
Mushroom Wars is
Mushroom
awesome.
Wars is a really good game.
Miller, if you insult Mushroom Wars 2 one more time, so help me God. Anyways, Miles says, hey, shout out to Ramjo. Agreed. He says, hey, crew, is Star Citizen a scam? Or should I buy virtual land that doesn't exist?
No, do not buy that.
Don't buy that.
Yeah, don't.
Bleepy bleep bleepity bleep bleep.
Yeah, meatball.
Maybe it's a scam. I guess I wouldn't go so far as to say a scam, but
What
like
is
I would
this?
not.
Can you explain what this
Okay,
is?
so basically, it's you remember like the old like stories of land barons out west that would lure people to go explore the frontier, and they get out there, and their parcel of land was just this disastrous, unfarmable
Right.
spot that then they would end up being indentured servants to.
Right.
You
the
seem to
same
know this
person.
story pretty well.
Yeah, this is what happened in my family.
Oh my God.
Like,
No.
hey, buy a bunch of land, and it
It's-
turns out it's like
it's-
the side of a mountain. It's
it
like
is-
I can't do anything with this.
Sled?
This is that. It's that in video game format, and it straight up infuriates me that it's happening. Those guys have gotten so much money from people already, and more power to you, man. If you're out there, I have a very good friend who has like supported that game, and they're really enthusiastic. I'm not taking issue with anyone's enthusiasm for Star Citizen. I would love for that game to release and be really, really cool, and I, against all odds, still hope that could happen. My problem is the idea of like crossing this threshold where you're, in order to continue funding this project, rather than just kind of like accepting that there needs to be some limits put into place, and that you can't make the be all end all game of all time.
Yeah.
And starting to get something out that's concrete for people. Instead, you're going to continue along a path where you're asking people to buy parcels of non-existent land in a virtual play space.
Yeah.
Are they actually buying land? They're just buying ships, right?
No,
No,
they're
that's
buying
You buy
land,
land
yeah.
too now?
You're
sections
buying
of like
land.
planets
Right.
that in most cases I think don't even exist yet.
Yeah.
I
It's not smart.
I think it feels.
I would say wait until there's an actual game you can play. Why are you? Yeah.
I don't know.
Well,
very
you
little-
can
little-
dig around
Well,
with stuff. It's kind of playable. And
But are you having fun? I don't know. Maybe somebody's really into that, but it seems like they're.
It
It seems like such a good candidate for early access, and I'm just confused
Yeah.
as to why it's not available to play in some state.
Well,
And I'm-
there's
'cause they're
there's
probably
stuff
making more
that-
money
There's
this
stuff
way.
that you can play. There's like these small snippets of experiences I think that you can go and explore. It's just it isn't really a cohesive game yet.
okay.
And so, everybody's got to make their own calls about how they spend their money and all that kind of stuff. I think it's real fishy.
It's like, imagine if you could buy land and Duke Nukem Forever before it was out, you know?
But like, are any of those snippets sort of things where I can see the fruits of like the money I've spent? Of like, can I see those plots of land anywhere?
I don't think in
Right now?
that case you can.
Yeah,
no.
like anything I've bought before, like those ships that are like thousands of dollars. Can I look at them? Can I see what they are?
It's basically like land speculating is what it kind of is, like
My
virtual
favorite
land
genre of
speculation.
game.
Yeah, but with real world money.
Yeah, so don't do that, Miles. Anyways, RJ from the Dominican Republic says, hey, happy holidays. Quick question. What was your favorite work trip in 2017? And favorite city you enjoyed?
I really liked going and sitting down with the guys who were making Shadow of War this year.
Oh, that's right.
That was
You
a
didn't
good
go
time.
on too many
I didn't have a lot of
trips.
trips this year. I went out and saw Bungie a couple times to talk with them about like
Yeah.
Destiny 2 and when that was sort of still leading up to launch and figuring out ways to approach coverage of that game. But the Shadow of War thing was that was really cool just because say what you want about whether you like that game or not, talking to those guys about the Lord of the Rings universe is a lot of fun. They really know
Yes.
what they're talking about.
And it's always fun to visit a studio for a second time
yeah.
and see how it's evolved. Every studio just slowly grows up and grows up and grows up until they all explode.
Yeah, that's
and then
the
sun
natural path
dies.
of development studio.
Yeah, that's how it works.
Yeah.
Suriel, do you have a favorite one?
It has to be going to Japan to see Dragon
Look at
Ball.
this.
Like it was the first time I'd been out of like the continent like ever. Because I've been to Mexico a few times, but it's just it's there's nothing quite like going on a 12-hour flight and then suddenly being in a completely different country and seeing what all is going on there and just like exploring those streets. I honestly think like my favorite moment there. We went to Shibuya and other places like that, but I kind of think my favorite moment was when we were looking for Farfetch'd. In Pokemon Go, not because we found it, not because like it was fantastic that I have this Pokemon now, but the area we wandered into was just like a random neighborhood, and at some point we were like, Kyle was trying to like switch accounts so we can get another one, and at some point there's just this guy who had spotted us from his like backyard, or like he was out sweeping his apartment or whatever, and he was just kind of looking at us like, what are you guys doing?
Because we're all just standing there with
Right.
phones. It was so frustrating because I already had a Farfetch'd, and so I was extra angry. But like, I don't want to wander into these people's basically backyards to catch some dumb digital Pokemon who I love dearly.
Right, invasion of privacy notwithstanding,
Yeah.
but I like going to those like sort of off the beaten path parts and just seeing like this is how actual people in Japan live like.
Totally.
Even though like I like going to Shibuya and seeing all that stuff, like all that stuff is cool. It's like whenever I travel, my favorite part is always sort of just seeing how people like the houses and stuff, like the suburbs and stuff like that, and seeing how those neighborhoods are arranged. So like being able to do that in Japan was like awesome.
Plus, we got to go to that optical illusion.
That's true.
Mirage
That was also
Museum.
another-
One of the highlights of my year. Just a bunch of wacky things that'll break your mind.
Yeah, it is. It always, when you figure out the trick, it's so simple, but it's like the effect of it is always really, really strong.
And going to ArcSys was cool too.
Yeah.
For me, it's a similar thing. I think like cities specifically, like going to Kyoto was fun, just to like wander through the woods. It's the first time I realized that I was in Japan and not just in the center of a huge city.
Kyoto is an amazing place to visit.
Yeah,
It's
it has a
just
good vibe.
Gorgeous.
Yeah, I got to see Nintendo's original headquarters, which was
Cool.
very cool. A tiny, super old building that looked like nothing was going on inside of it, but they have like a plaque out front and stuff.
That's pretty fun.
Yeah. Reeves, do you have a favorite short trip?
I really enjoyed the trip to England to visit Ninja Theory, which was fun.
Yeah,
that was fun.
neat.
Trip, but like also it's hard to beat Japan. Like it was out there for the Mega Man trip and like
yeah.
Osaka, and I'd never been to Osaka. That was also the most exhausting trip I'd had this year because
Really?
like 2 days before that I was in England for to see Sea of Thieves.
Yeah, I forgot about
And
that.
I-
You had that crazy marathon travel.
Yeah,
section.
I flew back, and then like 36 hours later, I was hopping on another. I basically had one night at my house, and I was hopping on a plane and going out to Japan. So I was just like, I ended up getting sick, I think, because I was just so exhausted. I had no idea what time it was.
That was really fun because I was out there already for Monster Hunter, and the idea of I was in that hotel room for 2 weeks, 2.5 weeks, something like that. And the idea of like, all right, Cork, Monster Hunter, you're out. Now I just got to wait for Ben Reeves to arrive. And then it was fun to be able to like show you around town.
Yeah.
It was a good time. But as for like visiting a studio, like going to Game Freak this year was big for me, just to finally like put a face and be able to interact on a man-to-man basis with Pokemon's developers about like, what are you guys doing? What is going on here? It was very fun, real thrill. Okay, last email here. I don't want to read it.
Just don't then.
You don't have to.
Just be done.
I literally have to.
Tell the site.
Okay.
This person says, "Hey, long time, first time. Thanks for the years of game information over the years. I really feel like I've leveled up thanks to you. Thank you. Can't wait for the new episode each week. Whenever I see it pop on my podcast feed, I swear I jump, man." Okay, number one question.
Tim Turry.
What's your favorite?
This is from Tim, right?
What's your favorite Fugazi album?
Correct. Tim.
Never listen.
Wait a minute.
Wait. Is this that question?
Wait,
Do I know the name of the sender of this email?
I think so. Hang on. Does a certain special someone have a favorite Fugazi album?
Why are you looking at me?
Because you think you have to go grab a bite to eat, right?
Oh, gotta get out of here.
Okay, bye. Fugazi album.
I love eating food.
Yeah, but do
My
you...
phone's frozen.
All right, we don't have to do that.
I don't understand the bit that's happening right now, but
It's not important. Okay, maybe forget Fugazi, but this person also is wondering who her favorite intern is of all time. Thank you, everybody. Oh, wait a minute.
oh.
Santa, what brought you down?
Well, I was thinking about what you guys said, and I sold all those Vitas.
Yay!
I bought these
You
credits.
did it!
I bought you all credits for Star Citizen. There you go.
Santa!
From me.
We don't want digital plots of land, Daddy.
Daddy.
What? Son, I
Santa's
told
your
you.
father?
Whoa.
Son,
Wow.
you're not supposed to tell anybody.
But you just... I'm so confused about your messaging.
Why?
That's why you always went as Ben Santa.
Oh,
No. Oh, God.
What are you doing? You gotta get out of here. No!
Well, gotta go.
Santa's got a
Bye.
gun. No.
Cool.
Guys, did I miss anything?
And I really
you're
wanted to know
I
what
saw-
Santa's favorite Fugazi album was, but that's all well and good. Anyways, this email's from Blake Hester, former Game Informer intern, a favorite intern of all time, Leo.
There you go.
Done. Sorry, Elise. Anyways, number one email goes to who? Favorite email of the week.
I feel like this is it. That was so long ago. What was the first email?
Damn it, Miller, you're the smart one
I was
here.
gonna say the developer commentary one was pretty good.
Yeah.
Ah, that was a great one just because you have that Uwe Boll story
Yeah,
that
that's a
ties
good
into
one.
games.
I like that. Let's do it.
All right, Andrew Vala. We'll ship you out something real nice. Merry Christmas, everybody. Happy holidays. For now, stay tuned. There's more show coming up. We're talking to Game Informer's batch of interns about their favorite games of the year, some underappreciated gems. Housemark might come up, a time or two, so stay tuned for that. And welcome back to the Game Informer Show. I'm still here. I'm Ben Hansen. I'm joined by Cody, Mello, Klein. Say hi, Cody.
Yo.
You got it. Keenan McCall
Hey, how's it going?
and George Ash.
Cody does not know how to say hi, apparently.
It's very complicated. You
I
have to-
only know yo.
That's all you need, man.
Yeah.
Get up on those mics, everybody. This wonderful group of people, they are Game Informer's current batch of interns. Current, but we're slowly shoving you out the door in the traditional Game Informer ceremonial way. But we wanted to have you on to talk about the internship in general and maybe some games from 2017 specifically, because I know that the entire industry is running through all the different games. I think every podcast people listen to is just a series of reading off the release calendar from 2017 and giving a thumbs up or thumbs down. But that's basically what we're going to be doing here as well, because by God, it was a good year. We're going to talk about it, right?
Yeah.
Internship. What have you guys thought about it? Let's have a big old discussion. Maybe what did you expect going in versus what was it like when you actually got here?
It was a great experience overall. I mean, expectations, that was 3 months ago. I kind of forget what they were.
Yeah.
But had a great experience while I've been here.
Turns out it's a magazine.
Yeah, what the heck? I didn't know those still existed. So it was a lot of writing, which was great because that's kind of where we all come from in our backgrounds, and I guess is what they're totally looking for when hiring interns. So,
Mhm.
But I think we all, I think, improved a lot as writers. Even just talking among ourselves was helpful for getting stories
Definitely.
out the door. And then, of course, moving them on up to the higher editors definitely helped a whole lot.
The higher editors who insist on lording themselves over you guys by literally being a floor above you
Yes.
and making you transcend or ascend from the depths of hell just to come up and beg for somebody to approve your news story.
Yeah, I was calling Ben the man in the high tower for like a couple of days at the beginning.
He loves that reference.
Oh yeah, he definitely understands that reference.
Yeah, so writing, that was the big thing. And people might not know the interns are squeezed into a tiny sweatbox of sorts.
We're next to the graveyard.
That's right,
Yeah.
the Rock Band graveyard on the 3rd floor of Game Informer, just so everyone has a real spatial awareness of exactly what's going on here. Yeah.
We'll get you a map.
But it's nice that it's like, hey, it's 3 strangers. We're going to throw you guys in a tiny room. And more often than not, it works out. I don't think anybody was ready to kill anybody else by the end of this 3 months here.
No.
No.
Yeah, actually went really well. Really found our niches of just like what we could each help with. Some of us are best with style, others with content, others with just throwing ideas against each other and really kind of getting stuff bouncing out there for what we could pitch to you guys and just actually get up on the site. So
yeah, what about like genre breakdowns? Because that's always fun amongst the staff. And I imagine interns have that as well. Like you each have different areas of expertise in the gaming industry. Like Cody, what's your genre of choice or genres of choice?
I like a lot of different stuff, but I think they figured out pretty quickly that I was willing to cover anything related to The Witcher 3. Like any story, any news story that came through the pipeline, I immediately grabbed.
Just, hey, gamer culture, somebody put Siri's face on a cake. You're like, yep, I got that.
Oh yeah, you're joking, but that did happen.
Are you serious?
Not specifically Siri, but another character.
All right. So Witcher 3 is this favorite game of all time, or where are we at here?
No, it's one of my favorite games in the past couple years.
Yeah.
And I just love, like, a lot of the news stuff that I was covering about that was gamer culture. So it's just cool to see what people are doing with it. But yeah, I love RPGs. Anything with a great story,
Okay.
shooters, all that stuff.
Where do you stand in the JRPG, Western RPG deal?
I'm much more a fan of Western RPGs.
Ah.
Keenan is much more of a fan of JRPGs.
Well, you can look at his hair and it'll really be a dead
Oh, yeah.
giveaway.
just defies gravity.
He's
some
a
days, but-
well-dressed man. Okay, so you two share the RPG genre. Keenan, do you kind of branch out in other areas as well?
Yeah, I go more into like the adventure games, a lot more of the indie territory. So definitely keep my eye on all those smaller games that are kind of filtering in and kind of trying different things, like Night in the Woods or
Sure.
Doki Doki Literature Club. That's an odd one that's making the rounds.
this?
So,
incredible.
it takes that whole visual novel thing where it's just like, oh, you can date a girl through a game, and it makes it terrifying. It literally uses conventions to just really unnerve you while you're playing. It like throws in glitches that kind of distort things and make them unnatural, and
Is it supposed to be a dating horror game?
kind of, yeah, it's like the creator wanted to make something that took all of those weird kind of cliches about visual novels and like the perviness of them and just really turn it into something terrifying that would make people think, yeah, these are kind of creepy and unnerving when you like stop to look at it.
I thought Tinder was scary enough, huh, George? George, what's your area of expertise?
Let's see. Probably mostly play first-person shooters. I kind of branch out into a little bit of everything, but that's definitely where I stick to. It's what I
Okay.
keep coming back to, especially Overwatch. This year is definitely my
Oh, really?
number
Still?
one played game of the year. Yeah.
Oh, be damned. Okay, what about stories you guys have written? You're probably still working on some at the time of this recording. Do you guys have like a feature or something big that you're the most proud of out of everything you've worked on here?
I'm pretty proud of my Team Fortress 2 piece. It was covering
yeah.
the best. It was Team Fortress 2's 10th anniversary while I was here, and I've been a huge fan of that game. And so I kind of did a story about the best updates in Team Fortress 2's 10 years. And that was really fun for me to work on.
What?
So.
Okay, give me the history outside of like the free to play update.
Yeah, so it started out free to play, it started out paid to play and switched to free to play after a few years, 3 or so years. Let's see, I'm trying to remember some of the other updates. There were some large, just content updates were some of the best ones, changing up character classes and giving them new weapons. They kind of took how Overwatch now takes the stance of adding new characters.
Yeah.
They never added any characters.
That's
but
so
they,
weird, isn't
yeah,
it?
it really is. I was always expecting another one. But they would always just add more content to the character, so new weapons and stuff.
Yeah.
It's
Do you
kind of
think
their
Team
way.
Fortress 2 is a reasonable thing to get into in the year 2017, or where you just get crushed?
I think their matchmaking system is pretty decent that you won't get stuck with those high tier players and you won't
Okay.
get immediately crushed. If you have no idea what you're doing, you're definitely going to be in a disadvantage. Yeah, I'm not
All right, well,
I don't know.
let's change the topic. And let's imagine Team Fortress 3 announced.
Valve 3.
Not happening.
I don't think
No,
so.
They never go into the threes.
I
Orange
understand,
Box
but the
3 coming out.
likelihood of Team Fortress 3 seems slightly higher than anything else. Maybe it just seems like more in line with the free-to-play model and kind of where they're at. What would you want from a Team Fortress 3? Just
Ooh.
Overwatch?
Ooh, yeah, just Overwatch.
That's the reason they'll never release
It
it.
honestly
You'd be too
replaced
close?
Yeah.
TF2 for me.
Really?
Yeah, I used to play TF2 all the time. Then Overwatch came out and just switched completely to that one.
What
I
is?
felt
I mean,
like I betrayed TF2.
are you like a Call of Duty guy, or do you only like
Not
the cutesy
really.
stuff?
I was more into Halo than Call of Duty back in the day. I was a
Okay.
pretty big Halo fan.
You need a layer of abstraction. You don't want gritty blood and guts.
I mean,
spilling
I'm
out everywhere.
fine with it. I
Really?
like
You're fine with
Battlefield.
guts
I'm fine
spilling
with
to
it. I
us.
like Battlefield a little more than
Okay.
Call of Duty, just the openness of it.
Yeah. Keenan, one feature you'd want to point people towards?
Definitely it's a piece covering fan games and the culture around them, some of the drama that kind of unfolds with them, and all of the reasons you should not risk making a fan game, but at the same time you should look into how they're made. It's like this very complicated world of, okay, there are a lot of benefits that you can get from trying to design a game based on something.
But Nintendo's gonna hunt you down and murder you.
If you make a game based on them, yes.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, their hands are kind of tied because if you try to make a fan game, a company is basically required to take that game down. Otherwise, if it's not taken down within a certain point, they lose the ownership of that property. So if someone makes a Pokemon fan game and
What?
someone doesn't take down the fan game, yeah, they would lose the Pokemon trademark. And then anyone could make a Pokemon game.
I've never heard this in my life. Are you serious?
Yep,
This is
that's
literally
copyright law according to U.S. copyright law, at least. So anything
Our
published in the
United
United
States.
States. Yep.
Wait, okay, so how long does it have to be up?
It's anywhere between, I think, 30 and 60 days, depending on the property and how it's filed. But yeah, so basically, if they don't take down something like Pokemon Uranium after a certain point, they lose all ownership of the Pokemon brand, and then it's no longer a Nintendo product. And
Okay, what does up mean? Can I just have a website hidden away and release just the crappiest game of all time, but call it Pokemon White 3? And then within 30 days, like, suckers, I own Pokemon now. Home safe.
So if they actually use, it is complicated, and it's like some of the big red flags are when, say you use a Pokemon from one of the published Pokemon games.
Yeah.
Then they need to take it down because they're using something that you have registered, that you have claimed ownership for, and if you're not continuing to claim ownership for that, it becomes free for anyone else to use. And
That's so crazy. So did you focus mainly on Pokemon Uranium then?
no, I actually got to talk to a lot of different people from different fan games. Talked to the new team for Pokemon Uranium because the original team had to step away after they were hit with their copyright claims. Talked to Milton Guasti, who did the work on AM2R, the another Metroid 2 remake, and just fantastic guy. Really glad that he actually got a job from it and is now working on Ori and the Will of the Wisps. He got recruited for his work on AM2R, which is, again, one of the benefits of getting some practice, having something to show for your work on fan
And if he
games.
would have called that Sci-Fi 12, no one would ever have played or wanted to hire him, you know?
It's true. And I mean, it is unfortunate that you need that name recognition to really catch people's eye, but I mean, that's kind of the line these people are walking, and
Yeah,
they
nothing
don't
catches somebody's eye like breaking the law.
and they don't get paid for it, but they have a passion for it, and you got to hand it to them for putting all of this work into something that honestly could disappear in an instant, and still having that drive.
Man, okay, what's the headline of that piece? What should people Google there if you want to read more about it?
So the risk, reward, and passion of fan games. I don't think that's the exact headline, but that should be the buzzwords for how to find it.
Okay. And Cody, biggest feature you're proud of.
I would like to say you should definitely read this piece because Keenan spent so much time on this piece.
A big thank you to Kimberly Wallace and Matt Burtz for all the help you gave me for 2 months on it. So
2
thank
months?
You.
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
It was
this was
crazy.
the full internship was basically going into this feature.
Wow.
Yep.
I hope we promoted it enough.
And it got a couple thousand views. A lot of shout outs from all the developers. So
All right.
thanks for that.
There we go.
The one I'm most proud of has not gone up as of the time of this recording, but will be up by
Yeah.
the time this podcast comes out. It's about the evolution of Rainbow Six Siege over the past 2
awesome.
years, which I think is one of the kind of the most interesting success stories in terms of the multiplayer market.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of people in the industry have kind of forgotten about the game. It was nominated for an award at the Game Awards,
Sure.
for best ongoing game.
Yeah.
But everywhere, like if you turn over a rock, the game has 25 million players right now, and it's only gone up from launch.
It's really shocking that it hasn't gone free to play yet. It seems like that model will work for it, and that's just going to open the floodgates even more. But even without that, it
Yeah.
still has such a thriving fan base. So just new seasons, new, what are they called? Heroes? What are they called? Micah?
Operators.
Operators, of course. What are the keys to success for keeping that thing afloat?
I think the biggest key for success for Ubisoft Montreal, which is the team working on it, is evolution. Like evolution has been their guiding principle for the entire project. Like from launch, they knew it was going to be a game that would last for years, and part of that was, I think it's easy to compare it to a game like Overwatch, just because hero-based gameplay, like you release new heroes, adds to the gameplay, but
Yeah.
because of how tactical and intense Siege is, you have to make sure everything is as balanced as possible. And adding new operators always upsets the balance. But they've kind of created a cycle of, they release a new operator, people get their hands on it, people end up completely breaking the way they originally thought they would use the operator, and then that kind of dovetails back into how they redesign and tweak the operator. So they're
Okay.
constantly kind of pushing players in new directions for how to play, and pushing themselves to kind of disrupt any principle they had for the past couple operators or the past couple content patches.
So just really creative entries every time they do. introduce
Yeah,
somebody
it's
to-
just constantly changing and evolving. It's fascinating.
I feel like I love Siege, but I feel like so many of those emotions that I would have when I played Siege for a little while, PUBG just kind of eats its lunch.
Yeah.
Like the thrill of Siege is like sitting in a room, pointing a gun at a door, trying to coordinate with my buddies to like, okay, you go around flanking from the side. And it's like, Siege is cool when it's like, hey, this is all taking place in one house. But the idea of doing it just on a huge island like PUBG is so much more interesting, just to have some filler in between the spaces, I guess. I mean, do you still play a lot of Siege yourself?
I do. I wasn't able to bring my Xbox to Minnesota, unfortunately.
They're
so
not allowed in this state.
No, it got caught up at NSA. But the TSA, sorry. But I think I haven't played PUBG, and I can understand.
Oh my God, you have to
Yeah.
play it, Cody.
Well, I don't have a PC. I have a Mac.
Oh, I'm sorry.
So I'm
on
waiting
the
for it to
dark
come
side.
to Xbox, and then I'll play it.
Okay.
But I think I agree with you. They do kind of meet that same kind of slow-paced, more intense and deliberate kind of strategy. But
Yeah.
I think the appeal for Siege for me is the idea of operator. Like I just love the idea of hero and operator-based shooters. I love that idea.
Just because of the personality? Or?
Yeah, there's a lot of personality, and it kind of gives you a role, which I guess kind of also applies to PUBG, but it's a little bit more focused
Yeah.
in Siege.
Do you wonder? Did anybody play PUBG here?
Yeah, I've
Okay.
been playing a bit more lately.
All right, sweet. Do you think that like that hero-based thing could ever work in a battle royale?
I did a story earlier about what games I'd like to see a battle royale genre in.
Oh yeah, like around the same time we did that podcast
Yeah,
segment,
yeah,
which is a
yeah.
weird thing of like, oh, I guess we're both hitting the same note. All right.
And I don't think I had any hero shooters on there. I think I considered Overwatch just for essence and giggles. I'm not sure
Yeah.
if I can swear on this podcast.
I believe it.
All right. And I'm not sure it'd work great.
You know, one that I'm angry we didn't talk about, I don't know if it was in your article, we didn't talk about it on the podcast a while back when we talked about potential PUBG clones, but on the Giant Bombcast, they brought up the idea recently of like Just Cause Battle Royale.
Oh my
And
god.
that's where I was like, oh my God, just thinking about like
That'd be
grappling hooks and all those
Yeah.
crazy vehicles, that would be so much fun. So I hope it goes in that direction. But the idea of like, well, I guess you'd ideally have 100 different heroes, and then everyone would have to rapidly choose their hero before another character, another person
Yeah.
chose them.
I don't know if it would work.
No, I'd like to see somebody try it. I'm sure
Yeah.
some freaky mobile game will get around to it eventually. But okay, not counting PUBG for Cody then. I mean, clearly that would be your number one if you ever got
Of
around to
course.
playing it. But let's talk about 2017 and games in general then. So maybe underrated games from 2017. What stands out to you, Cody? What do you want to point people towards?
Do you just want to run down the whole list?
Let's go around the horn. Let's go around the
Okay.
horn, official podcast style. So you start underrated, then Keenan, blah, 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 blah. All right, number 3 underrated game.
I had Snipperclips, which
There
I
we
don't.
go.
I think it's kind of an underappreciated game. I don't know if it's underrated because I think the people who have played it love it and enjoy it and evangelize it wherever they go. But it's
Yeah.
one of those games that
Hang on. Are you going like door to door like Jehovah's Witnesses
Yeah.
talking about? Okay.
is that not how you advertise games?
Well, I guess that's how they advertised the Wii with those commercials back in
Yeah.
the day. But yeah.
But yeah, it was one of those games that launched. It came out pretty close to launch for the Switch,
Yeah.
and at the time I was living with my brother, and I love and still miss couch co-op and local co-op games.
Yeah.
We've talked about this a lot. And so Snipperclips was just like the perfect kind of, it fits perfectly into that slot of a game that I needed at the time.
Fits perfectly in this slot.
Exactly.
Talking about Snipperclips, get a trash.
This guy got it.
My main memory of Snipperclips is it's cool. I liked it, but doesn't it have some weird thing where you have to like press on the crappy Joy-Con right and left button to like extend yourself. I just remember my hands hurting after a little bit of time playing that game.
That is, yes. And that's kind of an issue in general with a lot of Switch games when you
Yeah.
detach the Joy-Cons and have to play separately.
Yeah.
But I think they released some more content for it, like
Yeah.
a DLC. I haven't touched that, but I loved the base game so much. It was just a really fun co-op experience.
That's Leo's game of the year, right, Leo? It's up there. Okay, fantastic. Great choice. Keenan. Underappreciated is probably a better heading for this thing.
So probably The Evil Within 2.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, it's just kind of unfortunate as to when it released because it had about 2 weeks before like the slew of massive AAA releases came, including Wolfenstein 2, which was also from Bethesda. so
Exactly, yeah.
it just fell in a really unfortunate time, even though it is a far superior sequel to the first game.
You
It
think
is.
so? Okay.
Yeah, it's like a lot more polished. They had a lot more of an idea of what they wanted to do with this one. In the first one, it's just a lot of really cool ideas that don't really mesh well and kind of rely on the gameplay. Whereas this
Yeah.
one actually tells like a cool sci-fi story. It has its concepts down where it knows what it wants to be now, and then it can also have this fun gameplay and kind of introduce these open world mechanics into the mix.
Now, it's kind of like open region-ish, right? Is that a better way to frame it?
Yeah,
Okay.
where it's like you have those sections where they only open up when you're doing a mission or when you have the certain, components or clues to actually get into them.
Yeah.
But it still has that really tense sort of combat with enemies where it's like you want to try and sneak up on them. If you screw up, then it's definitely like, okay, you need to make sure you're a certain distance away. You have to make sure to conserve ammo to use the fire and matches properly to get rid of enough enemies to not be screwed the next time you
Yeah.
need to fight.
Yeah. George,
Um,
underappreciated.
Battlefront 2. No, I'm kidding.
Oh, no, the YouTube comments, no!
My one actually isn't that much less surprising. Halo Wars 2, actually.
Love it!
Yeah, it's,
Amazing.
Actually, it's been a while since I played that game, but I really enjoyed the campaign. I thought it was a big improvement over Halo Wars 1, though that may have just had to do with me playing on PC other than console.
So the mouse and keyboard controls work well? It just feels like a classic RTS?
It doesn't quite feel like classic. It feels a little bit scaled back just for controllers compared to I used to play StarCraft 2 a lot, so those are kind of different. But yeah, I don't know. I didn't see it getting a lot of love. So
We joke about it a fair amount in the office. It really feels like this year's Mirror's Edge Catalyst. Where it's just like, oh my God, that huge AAA production came out and
But
no
why?
one talked about it after like a day. It's sad because I love RTS games, but I do think it says something that I've had that game sitting on a hard drive just begging to be clicked on, and I have not done it yet. But you'd recommend it, like the campaign specifically?
yeah, I like the campaign. I haven't played. I think I've played like a little bit of multiplayer.
Okay.
But yeah, I really enjoyed the campaign. I'm also big into Halo, so take that with a grain of salt.
And if I don't know or care at all about the Halo storyline, am I going to be just overwhelmed by nonsense?
Possibly if you're not into RTSs, but I think it is an enjoyable RTS on its
Okay.
own.
Yeah.
accord.
My underappreciated game is the same as Cody's for his number 2, whatever it is. Go ahead. What's your number 2?
Next Machina.
Hey, I think that was literally my number 2 back when we
Yeah.
did this segment on
Hey.
the main show. Oh, great choice.
Yeah, I'm a huge fan of Housemarque games. They're the best kind of twin stick arcade shooter developer out there.
Yeah.
Which is it's kind of sad to see they're kind of going away from that.
It's a weird announcement on their part. Yeah.
Yeah, but if Nex Machina was the last one they made, it was kind of a worthwhile send off because I just like, first of all, their games are always surprisingly gorgeous to look at,
Yeah.
which you wouldn't expect from that genre, but it's just such tight gameplay.
Fans of voxels will find a lot to love.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah, no, it is great. Are you a big Robotron guy?
Yeah, I like the Robotron.
Okay.
And then I think I've put more hours into Resogun than I would like to admit.
Have you talked to Matt Miller about this?
No, I haven't.
Housemarque is his religion. Like,
Oh, yeah.
Resogun is one of his favorite games of the generation. You should really
Same here,
bug him
yeah.
about it. He will go on and on and on with you about this stuff.
I'll definitely do that.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
I know we kind of glossed past it, but it is a little weird, right? That I said my number 2 is the same as Cody's number 2, and then it literally ended up being what I chose as my number 2 back when we did this segment.
Hey,
What are the
minds.
odds of that?
I didn't even see anyone clap.
I know.
Time machine.
Freak out.
Great minds.
I hope people are screaming at home. All right, Keenan, number 2.
Probably Yakuza 0. It mainly, again, it's just where it ended up falling, where a lot of those games early on in the year, and even a little bit of Horizon Zero Dawn, it just happened so early on in this year, flooded with good games, that it just kind of got swept under the rug.
It was around, what, was it January?
January, like right at the start. So
Okay, right up there with
Mhm.
Resident Evil 7. But I
Yeah.
feel like, I don't know when a good time for Yakuza 0 to come out would be. That
that's
may
kind
have
of
been
the
the
thing,
peak,
yeah.
don't you think? That
Yeah,
it could have hit?
It kind of is, and that's just why it's really kind of good to point out this game when you can, because it isn't like this weird Japanese offering that most other games would be. It's got like a really compelling story. The gameplay is just that perfect example of something fun and addictive that you can get into for hours, and it's worth checking out even if you're not into something like a typical JRPG or Japanese drama.
Yeah, it was really obnoxious, by the way. I think it's 0, but I was recently in Osaka with Jeff Cork for our Monster Hunter cover story, and every location we went to, he's like, "Yeah, this is in Yakuza. This alley back here, this is in Yakuza. I know where to go. I played Yakuza." He's like, "Yeah, I get it. You've played Yakuza 0. I get it. Is it 0 that takes place there, or Kiwami?
I think
Osaka?
I'm pretty sure that 0 is in like it has something based on Osaka. I think it's
Okay.
Sotenbori, is what they call it.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Could be. I have no idea. George, number 2.
South Park Phone Destroyer. This is a mobile
Wow.
game.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah. I've actually been having a really good time with that.
You
What
just love cartoons, huh?
I do.
Okay.
Now, so yeah, I guess with the Overwatch kind of cartooning. Yeah. Let's see. So Phone Destroyer is a mobile game. I've heard it's kind of like Clash of Clans.
Yeah.
Which I know nothing about, so I'll take someone's word for that. But I think what really gets me with mobile games, I've tried a few of them, is when they stay in universe and do a good job of bringing you into that universe.
And so the story literally
yeah.
pulls it through with
Yeah.
Phone Destroyer?
Yeah, it starts out and it's basically throughout the story there's multiple animated segments where it's basically an episode of South Park.
Yeah.
And then it's Phone Destroyer, so you're the new kid still, and you're on your phone, and you're basically dragging these cards of the other kids dressed up as a whole bunch of characters onto a playing field, and they're fighting it out. And the story does a good job of because there's not voiceover for all of it except for those animated parts.
Yeah.
And so it does a good job of staying in universe by having the story come across by text messages, which makes a lot of sense.
Smart.
You're the new kid on your phone and stuff.
Yeah.
So it doesn't really break the fourth wall like I've noticed a lot of other mobile games do.
Do you feel like it caught on? I mean, I know that Simpsons Tapped Out game took over the world, and I think there's even like Futurama and stuff.
Yeah, Futurama.
Seems like
played.
every animated show that's tried to get into a free-to-play thing has just destroyed, and I don't know if Phone Destroyer... maybe I just haven't heard about it as
Yeah.
much or anything.
Phone Destroyer, I think, is probably the newest one to come out of
Yeah.
those. I played Futurama earlier in the year, and I played Game of Thrones mobile, which is terrible, during the internship. I did a preview on it. Go check it out.
That
Coming
was
soon.
hilarious.
Yeah. But I think the player base is... I haven't noticed any increased load times when trying to find players or anything.
Okay.
So, I mean, they're still there. You don't really talk to people about mobile games that often, though, so I don't really
It's
know
true.
how
It's
many
the dirty
people are
secret
playing
that
it.
everyone just keeps in their pocket.
Yeah.
Cody, number 1. What do you got? Underappreciated.
We were joking about number one being Overwatch earlier. It's not going to be Overwatch.
Okay, good.
As for game of the year.
Yeah, that's for game of the year. My number one is Prey.
That makes you a cool guy. No questions asked. Automatic,
Yeah.
smart, cool guy.
I was surprised that it didn't. I guess I'm not surprised, but Bethesda's kind of hit a stride this year, and every single player of the game, at least in my opinion, that they've released was pretty great,
Yeah.
including Prey, which I was surprised people kind of skated over. But it has one of the more interesting endings in a game.
Not the one where you can just give up and leave the space station.
No,
which is
I
an
got that.
alternate ending,
I
which
got
is-
that originally, and I'm like, what the hell is this?
That's so good.
But
So yeah.
it really stresses choice in a way that is actually meaningful, both in terms of how you play the game, but also the choices you make in terms of quests and stories. The setting is awesome. The art design is awesome. I don't know, maybe it just came out at the wrong time, but I feel like it's one of the smarter sci-fi games to come out in a long time.
Yeah, it's definitely. I remember when we talked about it on the podcast when it came out, and I think it's going to hold true. I think 5 years from now, people will be looking back and say,
I think
"Why don't
so.
they make games like Prey anymore?" Like that was such a big swing with such a niche market, niche-ish.
Yeah.
You know, like, hey, immersive sim people, come get your dinner, and
Yeah.
a couple people showed up.
I
But
think it's too bad too, because if you like BioShock or like the Looking Glass style
Yeah.
of storytelling, it's perfect for you.
Yeah,
I can't. I've been trying to spread that around to a lot of people.
going door to door.
Yeah, going door to
Okay,
door,
cool.
evangelizing it. Yeah.
Smart. Keenan, what do you got? Number one.
So I'm actually going to go with Gravity Rush 2. That one really slipped under the radar. It
Yeah.
had some issues, but it still took a really cool concept that the first one introduced and brought it from the poor little Vita, which is just continuing to sort of sink into obscurity, and onto consoles. And it just took this whole idea of like a comic aesthetic and giving a player really cool superpowers to toy around with, and just fleshed out a world for players to explore and wreak
Yeah.
havoc in.
That's a good choice. Yeah, I know Cyril's a big fan.
Yeah.
Just PS4, right?
Yeah, I mean, nothing against the Vita, but it's the Vita, so.
Okay. All right. George.
Leo is going to like me for this one.
Wanna
Heat
bet?
Signature.
Heat
Oh, yeah, I should have taken
Hang
up
on,
on
Leo's
that bet.
vibrating in the booth.
So yeah, Heat Signature is a fun game. I'm sure you've all heard about it if you listen to the podcast, and so Leo is here all the time.
He won't go.
He won't go.
Yeah, but it's like the spaceship game, run around,
Yeah.
smash heads in.
Yeah, they explained it in the Steam pages. Go board spaceships, make mistakes, and then fight your way out. You can pause time at any time to kind of get your strategies going.
Yeah.
It's super cool.
Yeah. It's up there with Prey, where I'll respect anybody that's super into it, but I don't know if I'll ever pour a lot of time into it. But it seems like it's a good choice. All right, Cody. Game Informers had their debates about Game of the Year, but it's time for a real intern debate about Game of the Year. What if you guys had to deck it out right now to choose the Game Informer intern official Game of the Year for 2017? What game would you be arguing for as your number one?
Hellblade.
Okay, hold all critiques. Keenan, what would you be arguing for?
Horizon Zero Dawn.
Okay, George.
You know, I feel out of touch this year because I don't have a PlayStation 4. I don't have a Switch. I feel like that's where all the best games came from. So I'm going to stick with Cuphead here.
Oh, I was waiting for another Halo Wars too.
Halo
Okay.
Wars 2.
All right, I'm now sitting back from the microphone. What is the Game Informer intern Game of the Year 2017? Go.
Well, I'm the biggest, so I think I can decide how this works.
That's usually our decision-making process.
Go. I mean, you guys are the ones with the cool systems.
You can't give in so early, George. Sorry, I'm out again.
I'm a huge fan of Cuphead, and I'm a huge fan of Horizon Zero Dawn. But, big but, I think Hellblade, for all of its flaws, did something completely unique and something that I haven't seen in a game, at least in a long time, maybe ever. I think the combat is, if we're talking about underrated parts of games, I think the combat is actually extremely underrated. It seems simple at first, but the way they kind of weave it into both puzzles and the mechanics around those puzzles, and then also kind of the themes tied to those sections, I think is super interesting. It's also extremely visceral, both the combat and the game in general. The game is extremely visceral. I think it has one of the best performances in a game this year. And I think it tackles a subject matter in a way that, while it doesn't always succeed, I think it succeeds largely due to its intense focus on illustrating the struggles that someone with psychosis would go through.
I'm jumping in, Cody. Do you have fun while you play that game? Would you consider it a fun experience?
I've stopped kind of using that word because I don't think I wouldn't describe The Last of Us as a fun experience, but I think The Last of Us is an extremely great game. That's one of my favorite games of all time. It's in a similar space as that, where I think fun is the wrong word to go into analyzing it. But yeah, I probably talked a little bit too much, but
No, I'm out. Just a reminder, this is best game of the year, not best experience. But all right, I'm out. I have no other opinions. All right, take it away. Who's gonna win? Go, go, go.
All right. So I'll definitely agree with Cody that Hellblade is a fantastic game. It may not be fun.
by the
but
way, I don't
offers-
think I'm going to win this fight.
Wow. Okay. Well, on that note, I still agree that Hellblade is a really good game. It offers something new, something interesting, but at the same time, so did Horizon Zero Dawn. It took this whole open world mindset and it applied something really interesting, this sort of cyberpunk idea on what would happen to the world if there was this kind of event, and then how these people exist afterward. It has just a really addictive nature to it. It's kind of like with the Bethesda game where you just get drawn into it, and even past where there are some flaws, you want to keep playing. You want to keep seeing what else is out there. You want to go find that next temple or mountain, or climb to the top of what is actually a really good recreation of different areas that they actually sculpted for the game. And it's also opened up a lot of really cool discussions online about just how its themes are used, how it presents people and ideas just in this new context. And I love that that discussion came about from this game that is so fun to play and that has so much more potential to grow and change over the years.
All right, I'm cutting in again real quick. Here's what's different from this conversation versus like Game Informer's Game of the Year discussion. You guys are getting like 12 sentences out. You either need to be looking in disgust while someone's talking or jumping in and cutting each other off at any opportunity. Okay, and action.
Hey, I mean, we heard you guys arguing from down below.
Yeah. Oh,
Like,
really?
Yeah.
We know what it's like, and
Yeah,
we're
let me
trying
guess.
to improve.
You heard Joe Juba go, yeah, you can't just...
Yep.
We're crawled up in our happy space.
Yep.
So, are you done?
Yeah.
All right, sweet. So
It's so civil.
Cuphead is obviously the
Yeah,
game
you
of the
guys.
year.
Oh, here we go,
it's
George. Here we go.
It's the most unique game I think any of us have played in a while. Look at that face. We're getting the faces of disgust. Fine. At least I had a serious contender here. All right, so I brought this game over with me to Thanksgiving with my family, and everybody from the old people, sorry parents, to my brothers and my sister-in-law who barely plays games were all interested in it. It was all super unique. The difficulty of it is also pretty unique in modern games. Just completely brutal to you. To the extent where it's basically easier, I think everyone agrees, to play a single player than multiplayer, as Leo and I had terrible experiences playing that game before it came out. I don't think either of us had touched it before. We embarrassed ourselves. Go check it out.
I still have nightmares about that.
That's the new gameplay today for Cuphead? Is that where that footage is?
Yes.
Okay, sweet. Well, that sounds like a good game of the year if you had a miserable experience out of the gate
A
playing
lot better now.
it. Okay, all right. Sounds like a real contender.
My brother, by the way, who doesn't play video games I was just talking about, is better than you, Leo.
Thank you.
Sorry?
Wow. George is picking a fight with Leo. not
trash
us.
talk of the
Hey,
year.
I gave him
people.
heat signature. Now I need to even it out.
All right, America, sweetheart. Oh, and he's been muted. Oh, fantastic. All right, that's the only way to go. There we go. Hey, guys, only one game's coming out on top, and there's 3 still on the table here.
I'm most jealous, honestly, for Horizon. That's the game I really want to play. So I think out of the 3 we had, that's if we're not going to go with Cuphead, I'll lend my vote over there.
But I'm going to impersonate George here and just say real quick, Horizon, interesting world, but I mean, the open world mechanics are just Ubisoft light.
Yeah, I would.
I didn't realize how good of a ventriloquist
Yeah.
I am. Damn.
So it's hard to call it original.
I think Horizon Zero Dawn is a great open world game. But out of the 3 that we've positioned as Game of the Year candidates here, I would be more likely to go with Cuphead or Hellblade, just because I played and really enjoyed Horizon Zero Dawn. If I had a top 5, it would probably be in my top 5 of the year. But I haven't continued to think about Horizon as I have the other 2. Specifically, I think you can call it an interactive experience or whatever you want. But I think Hellblade has a way, like, it's hard to argue that it's as mechanically as sound as the other 2. But I think it, as a total vision, it has a way of just kind of getting inside your head and staying there. Like, I haven't thought about a game more than I have Hellblade consistently.
What, like a moment in it, or just the tone and feeling you had while
Well,
playing
there
it,
are
or-
specific moments. Like
Okay.
there's a moment. There are several. I mean, there are several moments like this.
No
but
spoilers.
yeah, any of the moments where she's kind of succumbing to her sickness or the rot, the
Yeah.
darkness as it's called, where she's like writhing on the ground and screaming. Those are cutscenes, but I think those scenes stick with me, and then also some of the puzzles, like the way they kind of use perception as a mechanic. I don't want to spoil it, but there are puzzles later on in the game where they kind of mess with the idea of having 2 different perspectives on the world in interesting ways.
So you're saying you're not backing down? Hellblade Game of the Year.
I won't back down, but I also have no illusions that I'm the only one arguing for this game for a reason.
Unlike Senua, no illusions over here.
Yeah.
Oh wow.
So what I just heard was someone agreeing with Cuphead.
Is that what happened, Cody?
I would fold for Cuphead.
Oh, Keenan!
All right.
Dangling by a thread.
I'm still going with mine above yours, but you have an opportunity.
The tables have turned. Now I'm going to start arguing.
So I'll still defend Horizon simply for the fact that it has the potential to grow into something so much bigger, and that potential is on full display with this first game.
If I may, I'm going to channel Joe Juba from the Game Informer meeting. You can't make up some hypothetical sequel that'll fulfill the potential of this game. It needs to be this game only.
Horizon 2 is his game of 2019. So I'm saying.
Already been bought off. But no, I'll still defend Horizon Zero Dawn over Cuphead simply for the fact that it has a firmer idea of what it wants to be, and it just shows so much potential as to what it's going to be. It's so addictive, and it's a lot easier to draw you in than Cuphead, where Cuphead, it's that immediate interest factor where you see the animation, you see how fun it looks, but then actually playing against it can be frustrating, and it is hard for anyone aside from a really dedicated, like, running gun platform player to really get into it and see it to completion, because it is crushingly difficult.
I feel you, except for the it knows what it wants to be more than Cuphead.
Yeah, that's not true.
He should have been looking the other way and saw Cody's face saying that. Yeah, I don't know. Except for those running gun sections, which were added in at the last second, I feel like Cuphead really knows what it wants to be. I think it does a great job at being what it wants to be. Yeah,
That's a life lesson.
We could all be little cups.
Yeah, I would say that
Or
Cuphead is a much more focused experience and has very little fat on it. I think there are only 12 bosses, right? That sounds right.
I'm not sure.
He hasn't played it.
I don't know what game.
And each of the bosses feels unique, and like it's really like they've really spent the time. And I mean, I've talked with them; they have spent the time, but it just feels like a much tighter experience. Whereas there are parts of Horizon that I feel probably could have been shed. Like, I think Horizon has a lot of great side quests. I think the story probably could have been trimmed down by like 3 missions.
It drags out like the reveals towards
Yeah.
the end quite a bit.
By the time you've already caught up to it, it feels like it's still ahead of you. If that makes sense. Like,
No,
I
yes.
knew it was going to happen, and they still kind of dragged out the mystery.
Right. Aloy's like, all the pieces aren't quite coming together. if I go across the map again, maybe I'll
Yeah.
finally find the last clue. Yeah.
Also, if you want to talk about crushing difficulty, you should talk to Hanson about his experience.
I don't know
with
what you-
Horizon Zero Dawn.
I don't know what you're talking about. I definitely wasn't playing it on easy and still just being crushed. Because these guys walked into my house the second I was going up against two of the big Metal Gear looking guys. I forget the
Corruptors.
Corruptors, yeah, exactly. And I
Oh,
was just getting
alright.
destroyed because I was trying to fly through that game so much
Yeah.
that I wasn't grinding or really paying too much attention to intricacies of systems and whatnot, and it just was getting slaughtered, and it was so embarrassing.
Which
To
is an
clarify-
important point to make because Horizon Zero Dawn is definitely RPG element heavy. It definitely wants you to take your time and get strong and be sure that you can handle stuff that comes in the later game. Because if you try to rush through it, then
Yes.
you get torn to shreds.
Right, exactly.
He's calling you a bad gamer.
Hang on, Keenan, are you calling me
Fake
a
gamer.
fake gamer boy?
Not in so little words.
Oh, well, I never. Hey guys, Game Informer official intern Game of the Year 2017. Somebody has to say something.
Pray.
Neck in the woods.
Cuphead.
Yeah, Cuphead.
Wow.
I didn't expect to get
Alright.
away with this.
There we go. The official title's out there. Intern is capitalized, so people aren't confused. But Game Informer intern official game of the year. All right, Cuphead. There we go. Fantastic. Just in general, does a single moment stand out for you guys working in the office here or during your internship? What's been the most memorable moment or experience, I guess, during your time?
I think
here?
we all can agree on Extra Life.
Oh,
Yeah.
of
That's a
course.
big
Oh
one,
my
yeah.
God. These guys did such a wonderful job of keeping track of who was winning all the different auctions. They were running around, sometimes on camera, sometimes not, running around the scenes, just delivering boxes. Also, just keeping track of what's getting shipped out. It was the week after Extra Life. It was a full week of packing boxes and making sure things were bundled correctly, and it was tough, I would say.
Yeah.
Little
Thank you
bit.
to the person who sent us back the package that we randomly sent to someone out in California.
So that was actually a pretty funny moment. So there was an address saved under the name of someone who sent a donation this year.
Yeah.
But someone with the same name in California sent in a donation 2 years ago, and they had an address in California. So
it was saved in our system.
it was, and then that's the
Yeah.
one that popped up as the address once we typed everything in. And of course, so it was the day right after Extra Life finished up. We were all still a little bit groggy.
Yeah.
Didn't catch it until we got notified by the person, and thanks again to them for their patience.
So what did they receive then? What showed up in the mail? Do you remember?
So the person who was supposed to get something this year got nothing, and the person in California got just a random box containing a backpack, Assassin's Creed books, and a pair of headphones.
It's a bunch of
And-
Ubisoft stuff.
Can you imagine just opening that up like a Rainbow Six or what
Yeah,
is it?
and just
Ghost
some random
Recon book?
Yeah, and just some random Assassin's Creed figurines, and it was just like
signed by
okay.
Todd McFarlane. Like, I don't think I ordered this off
Todd
Amazon.
McFarlane.
Yeah, but we made it right?
Oh,
Yes.
Okay, all right, good. Is that everybody's? Is just Extra Life?
Yeah. Extra Life was incredible.
Yeah, no, I managed to hold on through the whole night, and
That's true.
just getting to watch the editors torture themselves with ghost peppers for a good cause, and then seeing them continue to suffer and having to give them milk for about an hour.
Yeah.
That was
Hair.
Oh,
the
the
hair
hair.
was pretty messed up. If you never watched the
crusty
archive of
cut,
this
the
thing.
hair pie. I felt so bad for Joe Juba. He
Hair
can
pie.
be a terrible person, but that was terrible.
Leo, how would you describe Keenan in his lowest state throughout the night? Because you were there for the wee hours, and it fries people.
Oh yeah,
Leo, how would you describe that?
Life saving?
Oh, okay. All right. The positivity. All right. Coming through Leo.
Yeah. If nobody had been there handling all that auction stuff till the early morning, I would have died.
it got kind of rough near the end.
Yeah.
It was just like that condensed amount of auction items at the very end, where it was just like we fell a little behind because of all the ghost peppers coming in at that late hour at 3 or 4 a.m. So
Yeah.
it's just trying to get everything packaged up after helping Surreal and Leo, and they were just dying from one, not eating anything, and two, trying to eat ghost peppers, which
Also, Serial had to eat a ghost pepper while wearing this ugly Beatles wig, which he never really complained about, but it's a very silly situation to put that guy in.
yeah.
It was a mess. But yeah, there is something fun and communal about that experience on Game Informer's end. It always just feels
It was for the kids.
hey, it's for the kids, man.
I'd also quickly shout out this week the internet went out in the office.
Oh,
and
yeah.
we
Yes.
had nothing to do, so we played Super Smash Brothers pretty much all day.
Yep.
That sounds pretty good.
That was a good
That's
bonding
fantastic.
experience for us.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Was this before or after you finished those Mega Man transcriptions for the video
This is
features?
right
After
Okay, cool. Then it's then it's
Oh, yeah.
super cool. I'm glad you guys did that. That's awesome. Again, we can't thank you guys enough for all your hard work. All the features going up on the site, all the news story, thousands of news stories, I'll say inaccurately. Extra Life, you guys were crucial. Yeah, transcriptions, you guys were crucial. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Twitter handles, do you want to give those out? Or do you want to just talk about, after you mention your Twitter handle, if you want to give it out, what you want to do in the future?
Yeah, at George E. Ash. I plan on going into the deep freelancing well.
Ooh, hang on. Actually, Leo, could you just pipe in Don't You Forget About Me during this segment? 'Cause it'll be
Yeah.
them in the future.
There we go.
George Ash.
So my Twitter username is at George E. Ash. I plan on going into the deep well of freelancing after this. God help me.
Game specifically?
Game specifically, made whatever will pay specifically, to be honest. Let's just be honest here.
Okay.
Games preferred, though.
All right. So George Ash went into gaming freelance.
Sticking around the freezing winters of Minnesota.
Sticking around Minnesota. Married a woman named Elizabeth. Keenan.
So Twitter handle is KeenanMcCall525. It's got some weird capitalizations in there, but you can figure it out. After this, I'm moving back to Denver. Moving back home and going to be doing freelance like George. Got a few pieces lined up. I'm going to be covering nearly extinct bird and taking photographs, doing a story on that for someone, as well as some pieces on Life is Strange and some other indie games, and trying to get those out to freelance publications.
Keenan went on to marry a bird. All right, Cody.
This is absurd. Yeah, I'm at ProElectioneer on Twitter. I'm gonna be moving back to Boston, freelancing like the rest of the guys. I have some story ideas that we've been talking about that I've been cooking. I just want to continue telling stories about gamers, about the devs, and kind of everybody in this community that makes it awesome.
Yeah. Well, frankly, Cody, Keenan, and George, we will never forget about you.
Don't you forget about me.
I promise I won't.
Quick, hold your fists in the air.
And thank you so much for watching and listening to this episode of the Game Informer Show. Be sure to tune in next Thursday, and we'll have a new episode waiting for you. Bye, everybody.
Bye. Y'all got away without doing back-to-box trivia.
I know. Dude, I'm so happy.
What was so bad? What was so terrible at doing that?
I was just dreading it.